What's up, folks? Welcome to my channel. Just wanted to pop in here really quick before we start the video and ask you to please subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. That's what feeds the algorithm monster and keeps this thing going. If you're interested in the audio versions of the podcast, of course, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those good places. We sell our t-shirts and stuff like that I wear during the show on justworkco.com. You can find me on all the social platforms pretty much at I am Dave Hurt, and you can follow the podcast Instagram at the Free Mind Podcast. All right, that's enough. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I appreciate you. All right, how's it going, brother?
It's going good, man. It's going good.
I was just listening to the episode we did together almost a year ago. I think it was, I know it was before my birthday last year because I said my age. And I was like, okay, well, that narrows it down. But I think we're coming up on a year. And that was in your studio. So I'm really stoked to have you.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be here.
This studio, because I was building it last time when we talked, and a lot has changed since then. So for the good people out there, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, what's up? So my name's Stu Brauer. I am 36 now. I just turned 36. I've had the pleasure of knowing Dave here for several years. Dave was a client at a gym I owned in Charlotte, North Carolina. Wrap up story. All through high school, I played lacrosse and sports, but I was a skinny redheaded kid, so that pushed me into the weight room. I also got a lot of disciplinary issues in my high school. When you got in trouble, you clean different areas of the campus, and I always chose the weight room, but I just go work out. Got into all the scholastic, Ripito and Melsif and everything, and art, and it got into all that, and just took me to college, which was exercise physiology. 2006, I get a hot stock tip, which is CrossFit. Right around 2005, 2006. I'm like, let me check this out. During that time, I'm doing internships in Nashville, Tennessee at a Velocity Sports Performance, very similar to like D1. D1, like they were two competitor companies, and D1 has just crushed it. So just think of these really nice sports performance training facilities. I go there, and I'm introduced to CrossFit, and I just I ran with it. I was really interested in it, and I left college in 2009 and went to work for a CrossFit gym and a Globo gym. And then I split ways because I had my coaching thing down. I've been coaching at that point since probably 16 years old, where I was like either coaching myself or other people. And I've been studying strength and conditioning. And so I had the coaching thing down. I have business down.
So before you keep going, you were working at a Globo gym and a CrossFit gym at the same time?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So there was a CrossFit gym called CrossFit Middle Tennessee, and I was like his head coach, manager guy. But he paid me $600 a month. Like that's what he paid me, and I was there all the time. So I had to go supplement with a part-time gig, and that part-time I fucking just ascended the ranks, and I was making $7,000 a month working there. Right, so I walked away from the CrossFit thing. Like I can always come back to this. Yeah. This CrossFit thing's still in its infancy, and the reason this guy can only pay me $600 a month, he was a great dude. None of them knew what the fuck they were doing business-wise. So I looked at Globo Gym and when I say Globo Gym, I'm just referring to like your Gold's gyms, Urban Actives, Lifetimes, those kind of things.
24-hour
fitness. The big box gyms. That was like boot camp for business for me. So I did that. And then that took me, I got recruited to come work in Charlotte, North Carolina for another chain that had locations in Kentucky and Charlotte. And I was just doing this VP of personal training thing. And, I was making good money. Life was good, but I had that entrepreneurial itch. I kept following CrossFit. I still liked it. I actually got hired to install it into many different Globo Gym models. Like they wanted their own functional fitness class thing. This is when functional fitness was just becoming a buzzword. And that's what I did. And eventually they found out I was doing that, and I started a company. I started a mobile personal training company and then built out a gym. They find out, and so, non-compete, bye-bye. So they fired me, forced me to shit or get off the pot. So that was in 2011. And so I've owned and operated my own gym from 2011 till 2021. I retired from the gym ownership thing in 2021. And during that course of action, business, I built a business. I was able to walk away from it in 2015. I started making content under the handle WTF Gym Talk, which also became a consulting handle. Business was really good. I bought some commercial real estate. I created a new gym model. Then I retired from that this past year. And so I lease out my building now. I play landlord. I'm still do full-time consulting, and I started a real estate company in the past year.
Awesome. So there's a lot to unpack in that timeline. And there's several things I want to touch on that I was thinking about planning for this interview. interview. It's a
Sure.
conversation.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you said your name, but this is Stu Brauer, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, Stu's been through sort of a progression of growth in business and fitness, and in many ways, our timelines have paralleled one another in some aspects.
Wait, kids at the same time?
Kids, business, real estate, all of that, and very different worlds in terms of the industries we were in, respectively. But I've always sort of looked to you as I don't want to say a mentor, but certainly, there's the adage: surround yourself with the people you want to be like, or the people who force you to level up. And so I've always kind of seen you as that type of friend. And I joined your gym. Gosh, I think it was 2013, maybe.
Right around there.
Yeah, right around there. And I was immediately struck by, first off, for your age and for how ambitious you were to be, because we were surrounded by young professionals, everybody around the same age. But it always stood out to me just how much piss and vinegar you had. And it would be 5 a.m. or whatever, and you're in there grinding and yelling at people and correcting their form and just getting after it. And then it would be 7 p.m. and I swing back by for like my second workout of the day when I thought I was going to be Rich Froning. And you were in there still getting after it and yelling at people. So I definitely wanted to ask you, because last time we spoke, we didn't dive into you at all. It was more about me because I was on your show. Where does that come from?
So as you were saying that, the thing that's interesting, and I realized it early. So let's say 2013, you joined the gym.
Yeah.
At that point, let's say we have 200 plus some members at this gym. And you're right. They're all in this young professional range in this trendy neighborhood of Charlotte, South Carolina, or North Carolina. And the one thing I realized, I not only have a responsibility because they pay money every month to provide this good fitness service, but at the same time, I know every single one of these guys here, girls too, are like, that dude's my age. And he doesn't look like he hates his fucking job. Like, I carried that with me every day, of the fact that, like, I don't want to say I don't think anyone wants to own a gym, but I guarantee there's some people here that are working a 9 to 5 that might not love it. Like, being an entrepreneur thing was like, the opportunities were more there with the internet and all that, but opening a brick and mortar gym isn't the same as what we're doing now in a podcast and all the available digital options.
Yeah.
But I always realized that I would have conversations with people. And so I don't know. I think maybe sometimes I had a little bit more piss and vinegar in me, setting more, not an example, but just because I knew at the same time, I felt so lucky because there were other people that just would show up to the gym and that was the best hour of their day. And I got to be there all fucking day. Like I lived a life that I knew others might be envious of from a work-life satisfaction standpoint.
Well, I can tell you in no trivial way, you certainly influenced my path because you had that effect on me. Because at that time, I was just out of grad school. I had just started what I thought was my career job. And it was that way. It was like, oh man, look at this guy. He's essentially my age, but he's doing his own thing. He's getting after it. And I had always had that, you call it entrepreneurial itch. I knew I'd always had that, but I also was battling with the demons of, let me try to be successful in something because I got to show the people from my previous life that I'm worth something. So like I did the corporate job thing but I always felt empty. Like I always felt empty with that. Like there was something missing. And you played a big role in that, to be quite honest, because there's a quote by, I think it's Thoreau, that most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And I always think of that quote, or I always thought of that quote when I was like sitting in my cube, just working away, having some lower back pain, right? Because I'm always like this, thinking about how my hips aren't opened up and, all the stupid stuff, especially once you start like
fitnessing,
listening to Kelly Starrett and everything. But I would always think back to like Stu's in the gym right now, yelling at people, doing his own thing, his business, making money for himself and changing lives. And so I just honestly, that was before I was a business owner. Everything. So thank you for that, because I honestly don't know if I would have taken the path I did had I not seen someone doing it.
It was, and I appreciate that. It was really cool. And I remember when we had conversations, and then when you jumped and you were, well, you rode, but you were humping both gigs for a while. But when you went into the franchise gig with the bar, I remember showing up. I was trying out. It was like a couple months worth of a new videographer guy, and I brought him into the rest of the bar one day. And we sat there, and we shot the shit, and he filmed. And I remember walking out of there, and the kid was asking me a little bit more, like, who is that? How do you know him? And all that. And I was like, oh, that's my buddy Dave. And like, he's kind of jumped into this restaurant thing. And I remember saying to this kid then, maybe it's on film, it was like, something tells me he's going to end up back in the fitness realm at some point. You have too much biology smarts on that side that the average fitnesser guy doesn't. And it's something you enjoy. You won't hate doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny to see that actually kind of manifest and come full circle.
It has. I mean, it took some come to Jesus moments for sure. But yeah, so I just wanted to get that out there because I don't think I've ever told you explicitly, like, hey, you actually played a part in.
No, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Man. And for better or worse in what I became.
Yeah.
So, so for you, I know you're from Ohio. We talked a little bit in our last episode about sort of your parents and your dad and all of that, because we talked about my dad. But work ethic wise, and I know that once you got to where you were running CrossFit South End, you saw yourself as the example to others. And then also you were just grateful. But as a kid, like coming up, like through school and everything else, like, was the work ethic always there, or was it something that sort of sprung up once you discovered that you could do something you love all day long?
I was a C average student because I'd get A's and all the shit I loved. And if I didn't care about it, D minus, just the bare minimum, just to have a heartbeat on the paper kind of scenario. Yeah. So an average is C. So at a scholastic level, I look like a half-asser like anybody else. In sports, I played sports all my life. I always really excelled there, and I wasn't a big kid. So like when I started playing lacrosse, I moved from Ohio, which is a football town. So I literally, in my head, I'm like, if I want to be anything to anyone anytime, I've got to play football in Ohio. I went to a high school based on their football prowess. And then before I even started my freshman year in high school, my mom moves us to New Jersey. Go to New Jersey, and all these fucking kids are walking around with these fucking queer sticks, just rattle. I'm like, what is this? They're like, it's lax. I'm like, the fuck is lax? I'm like, listen here, Ohio. This is a stick. It's got a net in it. You're going to throw it. You're going to put the ball in the net and hopefully get your name in the paper. I'm like, okay, I went to this all boys prep school, and that's what it was, lacrosse. So, I mean, I got a lacrosse stick, and I didn't have friends. I didn't know anyone in Jersey. I would spend fucking 5 hours a day fucking practicing cradling and throwing and shooting and all that because I had no one to fucking hang out with. I didn't know anybody. It's an all-boys school, man. It's fucking rough. It's like a male prison. It's like, I mean, the amount of like hazing that happens when you're the new kid from Ohio and all that. It was, but it's good. It makes you tougher. But I always had work ethic in the stuff that I'm not very good at. And the stuff I really, really enjoy. Stuff in the middle, I'm a lazy piece. Like there's stuff that I just have, I don't care. Yeah. Like I'm not handy at all. I pay a guy that does everything. I mean, I'm talking mounting a TV, like this pallet wall, like the one I installed in the new studio, don't touch it. I have zero interest in learning how to do anything DIY whatsoever. And me and my girlfriend, well, she'll bust my balls. She's like, I guess I got to be the man in the house and go and change that light bulb up there. I'm like 100%, like it just, and it doesn't even like register anything. I'm like, I do not care at all. But if it's something I love doing, I take immense pride in it, and my work ethic goes balls deep. And if it's something I'm not good at and I have a desire to be better at, those are the two areas. Other than that, I think I'm a lazy piece of shit.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because you often find that people who achieve some form of exemplary status in an endeavor in life are that kind of person. They're like, the average stuff, school, whatever, like if it didn't pique my interest, I just couldn't, I sucked at it, you know, by definition, by my grades or whatever. But as soon as I found something I was interested in, I excelled. And it wasn't that you lacked the ability or the capacity. It was the interest part. And so I just like to mention that because hopefully someone listening right now is like, oh yeah, that's me. So I got to find my thing. I got to find what that thing is, especially like in the work environment, right? Like again, corporate America, the fucking cubicle thing, sitting there, just typing away TPS reports or whatever, you know, the
office
cliche. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up if you can't be the top performer, the best at that. If it's something that bores you, if you're not interested in, but start testing right? Different things, figure out, because that's just not for you, and that's okay, right? Like, so for you, I know that you kind of talked us through it a little bit, but I want to zero in a little bit on the early days, because my guess is there's a lot of people listening who don't own a business, and maybe they feel that drive and they're like, I don't even know how the hell how do you get to where Stu is, right? So I know, just from knowing you and talking to other people around South End, that, at one point you had sort of the mobile, like going to apartment buildings, just hustling and grinding, and then eventually getting a building, et cetera. But like, what did you know when you were doing that ultimately you would own a gym, or did everything just sort of organically unfold? What was that like in the early days?
So I guess I was also lucky that I went to work for quote unquote corporate America, where I was doing this corporate whatever gig for these Globo gyms, right? I was, their district guy, their VP guy, whatever that was. So like, I was always in at least the realm of where I knew I wanted to be. It might not be the right, the jockey was right. I might be on a wrong horse at the time until I get on something else. So for anyone listening to this, that's like, I work at Bank of America, but I have no desire to do anything, whatever, in any kind of finance or whatever. I'd go back to him like, well, you got into this at some point, for some reason. Like you got to like math, right? Do you like math, or was it like you like money? Did you like trading commodities and interest? Like what was, futures? What was the thing that got you into that?
What if they say I had bills to pay?
Yeah. So like I literally just got the first job. So when I hear that, you probably, maybe you went to college. I just made, and again, someone can help me out with this, because I obviously had a straight path. If you go to college to study something. You get out of there, you're probably doing something with that degree. Now, again, from what I hear now, most people are not even using their degrees when they get out of college. But is that by choice? Like, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to do whatever? Or is it by, I got out with a business degree and nobody's hiring business degrees, so I had to go be a cook?
Well, I think just to talk about that for a second, because I've had a lot of, I guess the nature of like what I do and the guests I've had on and stuff, I get a lot of messages from like young men in despair. And there is a not so small portion of the population that gets a degree arbitrarily because they're told that's what you have to do in life. And maybe it's in something they're interested in. Maybe it's in something that was easy enough to coast through for 4 years of partying so that they could check that off their box or whatever, or check that box off their list rather. So I think there's a large percentage of people who just get a degree just because they're told that's the next step.
Check the box.
Yeah.
And you're at college, what the fuck do you know about? Yeah. It's a very tough time to make a decision as to what you want to do with the rest of your life.
Oh my God, dude. I couldn't even decide what I was going to do like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like
if it wasn't beer pong, I wasn't interested.
Yeah. That was the only, okay. I know I'm doing that.
Yes, exactly.
But what else? But as a parent, certainly like right now, it's something I grapple with a lot, because I'm like, if I'm honest with myself, like I think a lot of that is just BS, man. Like honestly, I don't know, or I do know. The college thing is not for everybody, and it's not necessary to be successful. I could look, some aspects of what I do, I certainly talk about my background and leverage it, but I could absolutely do what I do right now without a degree at all.
Yeah.
But there's still this little part of me, and I know it's not logical, but I battle with it. It's like, I know I should be honest with my daughter about that and say, like, look, you don't have to go to college. Especially with the decentralization of all these different institutions and the internet and scalability. Yeah. Like, you can start right now and freaking build a YouTube channel, opening toy boxes and be a millionaire, right? But I'm also like, no, she needs to go to college, because that's been so ingrained in us, right? So anyway, that's like a tangent, but
no, it's great. Like, I'm literally right now. My ex-wife and me I just got back from my kid's country day fucking interview. Like where my kid's she's going to be going to kindergarten. In Ohio, we didn't have that. We didn't have kindergarten through senior year in high school. That's how the private schools are here. Yeah. My ex-wife, she went to a private school, this particular one, so she wants her daughter to go there. I'm like, whatever. And then I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, this is $24,000 a year.
Yeah, it's legit tuition, bro.
I'm like, this is, and again, but it's not even just that one school. It's like the going rate for private education in North Carolina. And that's one of those arguments I'm going to not win. I'm just going to just stand down and, check, write it and all that. But it's interesting, because I think the same exact way. I'm like, I think these formidable years, yes. Like, I don't want to homeschool my kid. trust me, I'm not the person to homeschool a kid. But I think now, but you're right. I think by the time your kid and my kid, it's time to go to college. I don't even think we're going to have too much of that conversation. I honestly think the dust is going to settle, and the opportunities for alternatives to traditional post high school education are going to be vast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can jump on YouTube right now and learn any discipline, man.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to see, because you and I both went to college, and I mean, you could argue that you certainly used your college education. I could argue that I used mine some, but really, as I feel like a hypocrite sometimes when I say that that college doesn't matter, because obviously I did it.
But you're able to say that because you went, right? I can go to
That's
a concert
true.
and that concert sucked dick, and I can validify my fucking response because I went to the goddamn concert.
Yeah.
Just because you went doesn't make you a hypocrite. I think it actually puts you in the only position to make the statement.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I have serious issues with like the student loan debt thing. I mean, you're asking someone who their dick's only been getting hard for a few years.
Bankruptcy won't forgive it. It just
and you're like, you got to take on this huge financial commitment that's going to follow you the rest of your life. Are you cool with that? And they're like, yeah. And they go get a degree they don't use. And it's just a whole, anyway.
One of my consulting clients in California, he was able to get he just signed up for a new master's program. Smart kid. I think he got a $200,000 student loan. He couldn't get a $50,000 student or business loan.
Yeah. Yeah. That says it all right there, right? Like if you, yeah, that's a whole conversation we could go down.
But let's go back to like the advice for those guys, because if you find yourself in a spot and you're trying to figure out, okay, I don't like where I'm at right now.
Yes,
you got to find the thing that you do enjoy, and not just passion, because passion doesn't pay the bills. I'm super passionate about whiskey. I'm never gonna. I don't know. I'm not opening up a whiskey company. That'd be a fail. That'd be an absolute fail. But you got to find something that you're very intrigued by, that would interest you, that you would love to tinker with. And if that was nothing of your formal education or your current job, then you're kind of starting from scratch. I'll use a great example. We have a mutual friend right now, and she has got this itch. She wants to start a matchmaking service. Okay. She absolutely has this anecdotal whatever ability to like read people, and she's always been good at like, that person would be great with this person, has always been good at that, and she wants to start a matchmaking service. And I left her this audio message this morning. I'm like, that's awesome. The only thing is, you've never ever formally done any of that. You need to go fucking find, because there's a Charlotte millionaire matchmaker. You need to go work for fucking free from someone. Whatever genre that you think you want to tinker in, guys and girls, like, don't just start shooting content on it directly. I mean, if you really feel like you've self-educated yourself and you can fucking talk some talk, then go for it. But go find that area, that genre, someone who's already doing it, work for free, work paid, try to get a job there, and play in that area. And yeah, I think it is unfortunate. I think guys and girls that check the box in college just did something because their parents want them to pick a major. This is the one they thought they wanted, and now they realize that's not at all. Yeah, you are starting a few steps behind, but you're probably still young. You're probably still under 40, or maybe whatever. There's still plenty of time. You're going to live a lot longer than most people have leading up to this point. You've got time, but you will, I think, have to go dip your toes in those genres. You can't just be like, I think I'm going to be a matchmaker. I'm going to start advertising. I'm going to create a website and a handle and start making content and whatever. And I guess you could. It'd be tough. I'd be like, well, what go get some experience, because how do you know you actually like it? You're just assuming. Just like in college, you assumed you wanted that fucking major in that job. Yeah. So anyone who's like, man, I might want to make content like Dave and do a podcast. Cool. Like, go find someone doing a podcast and go work with them. Help them set up the cameras. Help them learn about all that. You might get in and be like, I don't fucking want to know about a fucking omnidirectional mic versus a direct. Like, I don't want to know any of that shit. Yeah. And that's how you know. Yeah. And I would also say, for those of you, so two things. First off, Stu made a good point about, what you end up doing might not be your educational background, but I would add to that, and that's okay. Yeah. Right. And that's like, don't be attached to it. Like I walked away from a PhD program because I was finally honest with myself. And I said, like, this isn't what I want to do with my life. And I held on to it for too long. I was like, you'd be dumb to walk away from this. But then ultimately I'm like, but you're not happy, man. Sure. Just walk away from it. That's not a failure. That's an advancement in your life. Personal pivot. Yeah, it's a pivot. And then secondly, if you are one of these people who's got a parent, right, who's like, no, you're going to college. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. But concurrently, at the same time, start experimenting with stuff. Uh-huh.
start a YouTube channel
Get in a club
where you're doing,
there's something. Yeah,
there's
you
so
can do
much you
something.
can do.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't feel as though they're mutually exclusive. You can do them at the same time. Like Stu said earlier, I started my bar business while I was working in corporate America. I mean, yeah, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, but there's always a smart way you can do it.
If you have time to have a hobby,
Yep.
then you have time to do the prerequisite education, testing, R&D to see whether that's maybe a business or something you want to start. What I can't stand is someone's like, yeah, but I work 9 to 5 and blah, blah, blah. I just don't have time. Like, what's your hobby? Mm-hmm. And it could be Netflix, it could be video games, it could be working out, it could be something productive. It could be like, I volunteer at the chamber, I do this or whatever. I'm like, cool. Well, whatever that hobby is, that you're telling me you have no more time, get rid of it. Mm-hmm. If you're truly unhappy, and you say you don't have any time, because I can't make up, there's no 25th hour in the day. So you get the same 24 units as everyone else. You just have to reallocate your time.
Yeah.
And I got guys that they used to go help out at the men's shelter. That's a great, noble thing to do. But that was what they said was their only free time. And they wanted to pursue a new business. Like, well, then guess what? I'm sorry, but you got to punt the fucking men's shelter if you really want to pursue this thing. Trust me, you do it well enough and you're successful enough, you could fucking go helping up 3 more men's shelters.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. Like down the line,
sure,
you can.
But boo-boo. You got to take care of home base.
Yeah, but there's all the cliches. You can't pour from an empty glass. All that stuff. Man, I had a thought and then I just lost it. Don't get old, people. but yeah, so don't get married to your ideas about what your future looks like. Listen to, this is what I was going to say. So you mentioned the Netflix thing.
Yeah.
And I think if a lot of us are being honest, we probably do too much of that. Right. And I look at it when I'm having an internal dialogue with myself, I'm like, how much time did I spend producing versus consuming today?
Sure. That's
how I look at it, because most of us spend way too much time consuming, nowhere near enough time producing. And it really is just between those two things. Right. But I was in a movie this past year. It's not something I was trying to do.
It was a horror flick, right?
Horror flick, yeah. They reached out to me. They're like, we like your look. You obviously know how to talk.
Yeah.
You'd want to come out and be in this movie. And it's a full-length horror film. It's in post-production now. It'll be out in this year.
It's dope.
I think it's going to be on Netflix and the major streaming places. But and so I was like, yeah, this sounds like a cool experience. And so I went out and did it. But what I was going to say is I never realized how fascinating it was, everything that goes into making a movie, right? And so if you're like one of these people who's like a movie nerd, like check out something like that.
Yeah.
Like there's so much really cool, interesting stuff out there. Like if you see a scene with 2 people in a movie, because I had this was what I lived, and it was the craziest thing. It's me and the girl who plays my girlfriend, and we're having a dialogue back and forth, and that's what you see. There's like 30 people standing around you, and it's crazy. There's so much effort that goes into it. But anyway, check out shit like that. Like you never know, because I never knew how fascinating it was until I actually saw it. And then I start like going down rabbit holes of doing research and like, man, I wonder if one day I could start making short films. 100%. You never know, right?
I love it. So I say, create over consume. But at first you generally got to consume first, educate, experience, and then you go and create. And then it's kind of just a little bit of back and forth, but creating or producing always needs to be greater than consuming. But if you do consume, like for example, the only consumption I do, like, girlfriend hates, she's like, do you want to start this series? I'm like, no, I'm not starting a fucking series. I'm not starting a fucking 8-part documentary unless it's about blank X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. The only thing I think I consume really regularly, I will watch old stand-ups of guys like George Carlin and stuff like that, because I have this fascination
I love it.
Of mastering language and thought and getting it to somebody with a tinge of humor but understanding. So like that to me is like, that's me consuming, but it's also some like post-education, it's CEs, continuing education,
100%, man. And it's so funny you say that, because that's how I approach that as well. I'm also a huge stand-up fan.
Yeah.
I've started having comedians on the show, which I think is so much fun, because they're the tip of the spear in the free speech.
Is there a good
argument.
like local comedy club down here?
I honestly don't know. Yeah. So all the people that I've networked with have been through the internet. So there's a show that I'm a big fan of called Kill Tony. It drops every Monday. Tony Hinchcliffe runs it. Yep. So I've connected with some comedians from that show. I just had a girl, Gina Hyena, on the show who's she now opens for Joe Rogan. And I'm having another guy in the studio later this month. Hopefully, if he can make it, David Lucas from that same show. But I'm very interested in the role of comedians in the free speech, like, argument or debate or whatever you want to call it. But also, like what you just said, they are masters of communication. Mm-hmm. I was just talking to my wife about the Gina Hyena episode, and she just came to me like, she's really good at having a conversation. And I'm like, yeah, that's an actual talent. And you really realize that when you start doing something like this, right? Like, I will start podcast, like I'll have lots of friends be like, hey man, I started listening to my podcast. Yeah. I can't listen to it. Like I just can't listen. I'm like, this is a horrible, the back and forth is just non-existent, right? I mean, you and I talked about this before, the art of the conversation.
Correct.
So this is
a dance. It's a very eloquent waltz.
It really is. And for me, when I started out, like I had some guests who I was really excited to have, but I got overly excited. And I would be so anxious to talk to them I interrupted them a few times, and I got the feedback on YouTube and stuff. But it's about knowing when to talk and when not to talk, and knowing when to pivot the topic. And I mean, there's so much to it. And when you listen to guys like Rogan, who's just a natural at it, you don't even think about that. But then when you start doing it, you do. And so now, just like you, when I watch stand-up comedy, when I listen to podcasts, even after doing this movie, now when I watch movies, I'll like look over to my wife and be like, isn't that amazing that he can do that right now? Because there's like 50 people standing around him. And she's like, really? She's like, I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, so your perspective changes, right?
Yeah. He's probably had to do it 30 times in that, for takes.
So many takes and just like, it's hard work, dude. People might think that actors and actresses are just, it's an easy gig. Like you're just playing pretend. They grind.
You might get, if you're at a high production, like even like a Brad Pitt in his prime, that's maybe 2 movies a year. I mean, like it takes forever to shoot.
Yep. And you can be a master of the art and you're going to still walk out and do 10 takes.
Yeah.
Because they want different camera angles. They want you to say this differently, use this word this time, put your hand there this time. Bro, it is exhausting work, like 14-hour days every day until we were done. Like it was a lot. So massive respect for them. But anyway, to loop it back to what we were saying, like you guys don't just settle for something, but also be smart and test different things while you're maybe doing the one boring thing. Like you can't just like the matchmaker deal, like just drop everything. And I mean, you can, it's extremely risky, right?
Sure.
So for you, to bring it back to your story, which is where this started, and then we went off on
That's the best part about the conversation, though.
Dude, I love it.
The best part.
I love it so much. You start this thing, you get some taste of the Globo Gym thing, and you're doing the CrossFit thing. You start doing the apartment complexes, lugging all your equipment around, right?
Well, that's the thing, because all these apartment complexes they all had these fitness facilities on site.
Right.
I've been to, I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, which was not very up and coming, and then Nashville, which was like, it was okay, but in Charlotte was like, holy fuck! Like I walked into my first apartment complex, it was like, holy fuck. And it was everyone my age. It was like grown up dorms.
Yep.
Everyone was making money. And I looked in, it was like a fucking 800 square foot gym, 1,500 square foot gym. I was like, holy shit. So then I started ESC Mobile Fitness, and I just went to apartment complex after apartment complexes, and I pitched it as if I was $1 million company. Mm-hmm. And I had everything. I had decks. You would have thought it was $1 million company. It was all bullshit. But I was like, we're going to be an amenity. For every new person that comes and joins the apartment complex, they can book an initial consultation with one of my trainers, and one of my trainers. It was just me as I'm pitching them. And eventually grew to a team of 8. But and we will do an on-site fitness assessment with them, show them how to use the equipment, go over some exercises. That way they can use this, because you guys probably spend about $500,000 on this build out. Let's get an ROI on it. Let's go. And if you do me, I won't do this one over here, like your direct competitor. So I would go and I would ping pong, but I wouldn't do the guy across the street. I would have an exclusive deal with them. And then they advertised this. My fucking picture was everywhere. It went to email. So I mean, like we were just booked because they're booking hundreds of people a fucking week in these new apartment complexes when they'd open.
Yeah.
And that took off like fucking crazy.
So for me, when I hear that story, thinking about you as a person, I'm like, there's really two things there. Like you recognize the business opportunity. And I was curious if that comes natural for you, because to me, you seem, at least now, obviously as a more mature business owner and entrepreneur now, when you and I have conversations, you'll pick up on potential business opportunities all the time. Say, hey, you should really think about doing that because there's probably this need in the market. I know that probably evolved and matured in you, but it sounds like even early on, you were like, wow, these apartment complexes, there's all these young people with money. Have you always been the type of person that's seen opportunity or looked at it through that lens?
I don't know if I've always seen that. I mean, in high school, I got in a lot of trouble. I was always in detention, always. And I stole a giant box. The high school I went to was called St. Ignatius High School, all boys Jesuit prep school. And I stole a box of letterhead. Took it back to my house, and I figured out how, and I took a report card, and I made an exact template replica of the fucking report cards. So I started selling report cards to kids in high school. Now, here's the deal. It would never be like their permanent record. Remember everyone to get a permanent record report card?
Yeah.
But report cards always went out 2 weeks before like the fall formals or proms and shit like that. So if you really fucked up, you probably didn't get to go. So I would sell them to these kids, and the whole thing is you gotta swap it out at the mailbox when it comes. Yeah. I had all the envelopes, I had the fucking postage exactly right, and I'm selling these things. I get busted about 4 months in, and that was a moment where I was like, oh, well, I saw an opportunity in college. Some similar shit. But yeah, as far as the fitness things goes and recognizing that, it definitely develops over time. But I think it's also, if you just kind of go through life, like always just like I was working in the Global Gym, so I'm solving business problems there. So I walk into an apartment complex to actually lease one, and I'm like, that's your gym?
Right.
Holy shit, how many people use that? And they're like, no one, hardly ever. I'm like you just, your head just goes because you're also in that space of solving problems. And that's why I think anyone who's still wanting to possibly be in a space like that, listen and consume things where people are solving problems. I don't care. Watch The Profit, watch Shark Tank, like get into something.
Yeah. If
you want to maybe be in some business, analyzing opportunity kind of scenario, consume some of that if you didn't have any prior education before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does become more and more natural, but I think you can make efforts at it,
absolutely,
right? To cultivate it. Like I ran into a guy recently. I was in a coffee shop and he recognized me and we started talking, and he, so basically what he does is he works as a consultant on air quality for homeowners who have mold issues, right? It's a very niche thing, but his business is booming because of the internet, because of the ability to set up a 30-minute call with a housewife in Cleveland and talk to her about her mold issue. She sends you pictures, you tell her what's going on, all that. And so I was really fascinated by this, and he was talking about his business and kind of like what to do with it next. And I was like, dude, because I've been, and you and I have gone back and forth on this recently, I've been battling trying to figure out YouTube.
Yeah.
I was like, you've got to have a YouTube channel, man. Because like YouTube's the number one search engine, right? Like, and what do? You're trying to like, what does black mold look like?
Yeah.
And
it's people willing to watch. You don't go to YouTube, like Google, you may not be willing to watch. Right. You might be wanting to read.
Yeah.
But at YouTube, you're only there to watch.
Right. But it was because just like you had been in that space and in that mindset, like I was like, man, if you don't have a YouTube channel, you absolutely should right now.
Yeah.
And he was also telling me like his brother is a videographer and all this. I'm like, bro, you should be making short videos about mold and air quality and what to look for in your home, because that DIY space on YouTube is huge. The homeowner, construction, all that. And he had never thought of that. And he was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, yeah, and you get to 1,000 subscribers, you can monetize. Yep. It's going to bring you business for your actual business, but then it will become a revenue stream on its own. And, he had just never even looked at that as a potential opportunity for him. And I think that it's something to keep in mind and something to practice, because you never know when there are people who jumped on this NFT thing super early and made millions of dollars, right? Because they saw opportunity. But you'll never see it if you're not looking for it, right? Yeah. So I always, for you, and the different iterations of your journey, I've always recognized that in you. You always seem to sort of be earlier, right? With the CrossFit thing, you were early. Yeah, and then a bunch of people started opening CrossFit gyms, right? You recognize this need in apartment buildings, and you were willing to also take that step. So for you, because I know a lot of people suffer from this, right? The analysis paralysis thing, taking that first step.
Imposter syndrome.
I still have imposter syndrome every day. Like when this dude recognized me in a coffee shop, I'm like, but that's not real. That's weird. What advice would you give, or what was it like for you to finally just, and maybe this is something you don't even grapple with, to just say, screw it and go to that first apartment complex and say, hey, look, here's what I want to do for you. Lay it all out. Or had you gotten enough experience in the Globo Gym space by that point?
Yeah. So I never talk shit on things I don't know. So if we're ever out like having conversations with people,
that's good advice.
Yeah, and it comes to it. Like I couldn't talk educated on an NFT. I know what it stands for, and that's fucking it.
That's about it for me. Too,
I literally know nothing about it. So I'll listen. I may or may not be interested, but I'll never fucking talk shit on anything I don't know. So when I do talk shit, and when I say talk shit, like when I'm pitching a business idea or I think I can sell someone on something, it's something I know. I am the boldest, most cocky piece of shit ever. Like I literally walk in, like I literally, the second I walked in, I'm like, that's your apartment? That's a gym? You guys don't use it? In my head, I'm like, I literally know, I know enough in my brain right now that if I can get her to give me 5 minutes in her fucking office, I can at least get another meeting to where I could sell her on this idea that I've just half cooked up in my head. It's not even a company. It's not even a thing. I just half cooked it up because I saw this empty gym and now I'm thinking the wheels are spinning. Fuck, how do I get a next meeting? Talk some shit. And I'd just talk out of my ass. It was just, I've always been a good salesman in that regard, only if I know what I'm talking about.
Now, is that a character trait of yours, though, to have that level of confidence?
Yes, 100%. I am only if it's my realm. Like fitness, and I'm talking everything from training to the business side. I'll go toe-to-toe and have a conversation with anyone, and I have not an ounce of fear of what's going to come out of my mouth. If someone's like, well, is someone going to rebut it? Is someone going to argue against it? Because here's the one thing. No matter what your belief is on anything, and it could be literally math, be fucking math, there's someone who could potentially argue against it with some obscure fucking thing. Guess what? You're both right. Mm-hmm. Like, you're both right at the end of the day. Like, this fear of I'm going to be wrong and I'm going to be publicly shown that I'm wrong. Again, you might not have high enough level of confidence in your subject matter. You're not going to be a full SME yet or consider yourself one. But at the end of the day, there's no one who is an SME that hasn't been in the comments or at a lecture or at a public speaking event or in front of a client been proven wrong.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not going to work because of this. And you're like, all right, well, listen, let's talk about that. Let's figure that out. But I mean, like, if your fear is like someone's going to stop me, say something, correct me, or whatever's going to come out of my mouth is not going to be right, I'd say go back. Do you have enough confidence or do you have enough knowledge in it? If the answer is no, then go back and get more. It's more experience, more time studying it, whatever the fuck it may be. Otherwise, it might just be that imposter syndrome, like you said. It would just maybe that internal fear of like, I don't know, what if I'm not right? And they see that and they could see right through me.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not be right, but they also might not be right either. And how would you ever prove that either way? I mean, it's going to be it's an argument. Like, you go to sell someone something, I've got the best gutters in the fucking world, and I promise you they're going to save you X amount of money on this, that, and the other thing. They install super easy, and Duke Energy is going to give you a rebate. Why don't you want it? He's like, I like the gutters the way they are. Well, okay then. Like, I mean, like, you're right and he's right.
Yeah.
You know, so there can't be any fear there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And sometimes we have irrational fears that we don't even, we can't explain.
Yeah.
You just feel it. But I think that it goes back to what you were saying earlier about you have to be a consumer before you're a producer, mm-hmm. right? So maybe at that point you haven't been a consumer long enough with the education piece. But I just asked that because I know that a lot of people struggle with the confidence to just put themselves out there.
And here's a great easy piece. I never played baseball, but I did go to the batting cages. You don't start off at 60 miles an hour. You start off with the nice, easy ones and you work your way up with confidence. So I have guys like, I want to get into the consulting space like you. I'm like, cool. I'm like, I bet you already are. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, have you ever gone and had a cup of coffee or talk shop with someone over a beer and you gave them some kind of advice, mm-hmm. just yourself? So yeah, like that's step one. Do that a bunch. Like just have like friends of you, the people you want to consult with. All right. If anyone listening to this, once again, like the consulting world, go and do that shit for free. Just go and meet with people that have that problem, have conversations with them and just talk. And worst case scenario, you only learn.
Yeah.
And you actually aren't able to give any advice, but you learned a new problem that somebody has. You think on it for a few days and you call that person up like, I've been thinking about your problem. And I really think maybe if you tried X, Y, and Z, that could work. And then you slowly get a couple of those wins. You go from 10 miles an hour to the 30 mile an hour pitches, then the 50 mile an hour pitches, and you just slowly build it up. And eventually, I remember the first day I ever charged anybody for consulting. Before I did like a couple consulting Zoom calls. This is like 2014, 15 for free. And then the first time I ever thought I charged someone $100 for a call, and I thought I was insane. Like no one's ever going to pay that. But yeah, I had the 3 free ones I did, and they were hour-long Zoom calls, and I just chopped up the clips of me just dropping some good one-liners and pieces of advice. So 3 calls probably netted me 30 pieces of content, and I started dropping those on the internet and Facebook groups and shit like that, and all of a sudden, schedule's full. But like, again, yeah, small little victories. Just get that practice in, even if it's pro bono, beat your fucking aunt, whatever it is. Yep. That will build your confidence.
That's exactly what I did with the nutrition coaching.
Yeah.
I coached people because I also had my other business and everything, so I wasn't all in on it. But I coached people for free for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Just, hey man, no charge. Like, I want to get the reps in. I want to get better. Would you let me handle your nutrition? And of course, a lot of people are going to say yes. And you don't look at it as doing the work for free. You look at like people's time and allowing them to play a role in your life. There's monetary value to that. So that's how you're getting paid, right? You're getting paid with that experience and that improvement upon your offering, which ultimately you do monetize, right? So don't be afraid to do shit for free. I think is something that, especially these days where like there's signs that on McDonald's saying starting at $18 an hour, like nobody's willing to actually work in exchange for learning or in exchange, not that you should go work at McDonald's for free. Sure. I'm just saying that like we have a certain level of entitlement where we think my time is always worth money. Well, sometimes there's other value.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, and there's a selfish exchange of energy there. Like for you and me, when we were doing it for free, we did it for reps and education, maybe content or whatever. Now, at the same time, this person was getting a service, and I bet you probably agree with this. Your paying clients now are far more engaged, and they oblige and are harder working than the free clients you got in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, that was the drain on you and me. And when I was working with someone for free, there was no follow through. It was tough, but at the same time, like this is not this is not forever client. This isn't Mr. Right. This is Mr. Right now.
Yeah.
This is for me. This is a learning experience.
I think the one frustrating aspect about that, or the most frustrating aspect, is if they're not taking your advice as seriously and not applying it, then you don't get to see the result of your advice.
Sure.
Because it's always nice to put a bow on it and say, I worked with them for this long, here's what they achieved. But still, you're getting the reps.
I tell people in the world of consulting, you don't get paid on execution by the client. You get paid on the idea by you. Mm-hmm. I only get paid because I have better ideas than my clients, because I have more experience. Their actual execution on it works great on a testimonial, but at the end of the day, there is no payment based on execution. If I got paid based on execution, I would not make a lot of money, because you're right. Execution is the hardest thing in the world. And I spend fucking 6 months on a comp plan for a 10-person team and then hand it off. And then all of a sudden something happens and it doesn't go anywhere. Well, I've already been paid, but but you hand that off. That's the one thing when you get into the advice giving stage, same with your nutrition. It's the hardest fucking thing in the world to be like, one of my clients is an RD in Charlotte, really successful. He's got an office out of that Project Lean Nation by Sycamore Brewery. His name's Matt Dangler. Great dude. And I'm like, bro, that's got to be the hardest gig. Because nutrition is the lowest compliance out of anything out there. Training is easy. It instantly feels good. You know what instantly feels good about eating a carrot? Fucking nothing. Nothing. So it's got to be tough. But from nutrition, I to volley a question to you is the compliance? Do you feel compliance is low compared to training?
100%.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
Yeah.
And I'm largely out of that game for the most part now, because, and it's funny, I was listening back to our episode we did almost a year ago, and you asked me sort of moving forward what we're doing or how I saw the level of accomplishment with what I was trying to achieve at that point in time. And I said, well, I think moving forward, the focus is going to be on the podcast, less so on the coaching and everything. And it was just funny to look back and say like, that is kind of what I did. But when I was really coaching and putting a lot of my time into it, and I have some ideas for more scalable coaching products moving forward, because I still have people that want to work with me, but compliance was, it's hard and it's frustrating, because you will also have situations where someone says, I worked with such and such, their plan did nothing for me.
Sure.
And it's like, well, 100% of their plan did nothing for you, the 20% that you executed on, the 50% you executed on, so did you actually, how closely did you follow it? Because that would happen all the time when I would have potential clients come to me and say, I've worked with 6 different people. I never got results. I'm like, hold on a second. All right, let's stop right there. Put a pin in that, because what are the odds that 6 people had no clue how to coach you, right? 6 people had awful plans, right? 6 people just don't know nutrition, and you think maybe the 7th will. Or let's talk about how compliant you were with that plan. 99.99% of the time, they just were not compliant. They were inconsistent, all that, right? And so you can't I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I agree with you.
Yeah, clients are going to give you a 5-star rating. He was the best, and there's a fear that some clients aren't going to get a 5-star experience. There are hundreds of thousands of people that hate Netflix.
Yep.
There's negative reviews on sites, hundreds of thousands deep, of people who hate Netflix. There are people who don't like Spotify. Now, when I think in my head of the 2 apps that I'll never stop paying for, it's those 2.
Yep.
There's people who hate water. There's nothing you could ever create as a businessman, woman, whatever, in which you're going to have 5-star reviews across the board, where you're not going to let someone down, or where someone's not going to follow through, or they're not going to see the value in it. I think it goes back to the fear conversation there. It's like I talk about, I make the product, and of course I want the client to execute on it. I fucking hope they do. I want them to be successful.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to detach myself from that. And same thing, you provided the best nutrition coaching possible. You receive the fee for that. You are hoping and do everything, whatever accountability, little hacks and tips you've got for them within the service. But at the end of the day, bro, they don't follow on it. There's got to be this emotional cutoff. They go, so that's fine. They needed something. I provided that something. They just chose not to use it right now.
Exactly.
And that's that.
It's just like with your gym, if someone paid for a monthly membership and never showed up.
Yeah. 100%.
Guys like me towards the end.
Yeah. It's like, listen, I want you to come in here and whatever, but at the same time, you're a grown up. You pay for a cable TV, and you might not watch it every day. So that's just, you're allowed to do that. Yeah.
I think that's an important message to people who want to start a business or offer a service, is and also in general, even if you're just out there on social media, fighting the fight in the culture war, or the battle of ideas, or whatever it is, political stuff, whatever, you got to remember that no matter what, everybody's not going to like you, just period. But the good thing is there's 7 billion people in the world. You only need a fraction of a % to like you, right? So I think, and really, I think that you can say it all day long, but you don't really get that, and it doesn't really hit home until you experience it. Right? Like you and I have experienced, there's people who are going to hate my guts for existing, but that's fine, because there are going to be other people who absolutely love what I'm all about. And that's okay.
51-49. I always want 51% of people to love me, 49% of them to hate me. Yeah. And I think that's the perfect blend.
Right. Well, and there's Pareto's principle too, right? Yeah. You get 80% of your results from 20%. Yeah. And that's so true. You see it time and time again. So bringing it back to Stu Brauer, You're doing the thing where you're going to apartments, you're grinding. How long were you doing that before you took
2009, 10, and just leaning into the beginning of 2011. And then we get our first brick and mortar. I'd done a boot camp in the summer of 2011, and it was getting cold out. I was still doing the apartment complex thing. And then I folded all the apartment complex personal training. At that point, we were servicing 13 different apartments. I had 8 1099 trainers. That was my side hustle. I was still employed at this point by the other company, and they paid me very well. And then this thing, my take home tax, at the end of the day, was probably around $7,000 a month. So at 20-some, young, dumb me back then in South End here in Charlotte, living it up, I was a fucking idiot. I was, I worked my ass off. I played my ass off too. But the thing was, it got cold. And I had moved people outside because I knew group fitness was going to be the model. Personal training is great, but it was going to take a down tick. And I knew that. So I got everyone outside into a boot camp. They all went from paying, $85 an hour personal training to paying $200 an hour to meet for workouts at Lotta Park in Dilworth, outside of Charlotte. And I ran that community. I knew how to do that, and then just boom, put them into a building, and then that started the brick and mortar phase.
Yeah, and during that time, because when you look back on it right now and reflect, it just seems like things just kind of worked for you because you did this and that and this. But I'm sure that's not the case.
It's always luck, and it's always happened. I believe that luck only gets to show up. You only get to benefit from luck when you're working your ass off. I don't believe there's anyone sitting on their ass at home doing nothing and they get a knock at the door and like, here's that winning lottery ticket you're looking for.
Right, 100%.
Luck shows up when you work your ass off and when you're making motion. Like you bump into a guy at Starbucks who thinks you're interesting and you sit down and have a conversation. Next thing you know, he flies you out to be a CFO of his company and you make $1 billion. But you were at that Starbucks because you're getting your third fucking latte because you were working on a dissertation paper. Like that's how I think luck works. So I believe luck is good. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, oh, you're lucky. Yeah. But you realize luck only is there when you're working at shit, when you're moving, you're creating motion.
When you're working, and then also to take it back to what we talked about earlier, when you're perceptive and open-minded and looking for opportunities, right? Because you can be grinding and focused on something and miss everything flying by you too, right? So that said, in those early days, what were some of the bigger mistakes you made?
Bigger mistakes that I made?
Because people need to hear that too.
Yeah, no, 100%. You know what? I was real conservative financially. I mean, like I lived in the gym for a period of time. I dated a girl for a while and she was great, but I moved into her apartment just so I didn't have to sleep in the fucking gym and take showers at my buddy Ralph's house. And,
Wait, is this a girl I knew?
No, she was gone by the time you came to the gym.
Okay.
And so like there was times where I was conservative, and then there were times where I was very foolish of money. I was renting a fucking 5-bedroom house for $2,500 a month. And just like, I'm like, fuck, like if I go back in time now, I could have purchased a house in Wilmore or South End and with a mortgage. So I went back and forth because there was a time where it was like, I starved myself and I was like this, whatever. And then there was a time where I was really foolish with money. And now, I feel, I'm much better with it. But I think financially, I allowed emotion to play with fight. So when business was like unsure, I was like very restrictive financially. And then when things were flush, I was like, let's go out every fucking night. I'll pay for everybody. And that was just my immaturity with the highs and lows of business. Yeah. Right. The other big mistake I think I would say that I made is I don't think I did a good enough job. How do I put this? I don't think I did. I kept everybody away. I didn't go to I went to no weddings of my friends. I went home to see my family maybe once a year until my sister moved to Charlotte. And I didn't fucking go see anybody. Right. And like this entire thing. And during that time, people die, things change. So I really think too, at that same time, go all in on your business, blinders on it. There's definitely moderation that could have happened. Yeah. So going back in time, I wish I would have done a little bit more moderation on that and kind of just like, pulled my head up from the work every now and then. I'm like, whoa, what about all those people back in Cleveland? What about your family, your life back there? Because I go back now often, often-ish, more often. And it's, I feel like I'm having this conversation. I'm always having to bring them up because I haven't seen them for fucking ever. Like, what happened to you from like 2009 to 2017? I was like, well, here we go. And it's because I kind of blocked them all out. Going back, I wish I would not have done that.
What is your view or your opinion, or however you want to phrase it, on work-life balance in general as a concept? So
I believe it's going to go two ways. If you are an employee, I believe you have a better opportunity of work-life balance. And I applaud people for that. And I've never been one of these guys that looks, since I own a business, I look down on people who are employees. I believe honestly, and I generally push more people. I think there's way more opportunities, honestly, especially right now. I think there's an oversaturation of entrepreneurs or people pursuing entrepreneurship. I think there's actually way more opportunity in being a number 7, 8, or 9 at a company. I truly do.
Agreed.
So I think you've got an opportunity. If you have work-life balance issues right now and you are employed by somebody, I think that's a conversation you got to quantify with your partner, your family, and then get back to your superior and talk to that person and let them know. If you own a business and you want work-life balance, there's give and take. I've got a guy right now, he's a concept gym, and I almost didn't take on the client because he has 5 kids. And that might sound fucked up. And it might be, I don't know if that's babyist or ageist or kid. I don't know. I'm definitely being,
it's parentist.
It's parentist. It's definitely one of those. I said, bro, you're about to start a business. This is what's in savings. This is here. And you have 5 kids with monthly expenses equal this. And you're going to open a gym. Are you fucking high? Bro, you should have got a vasectomy. You should have done it 3 kids ago, whatever. You're not, I don't think you're in the right position. I wouldn't put a penny into this company. I don't think you're going to win. But if you want every little bit of advice to get there, I can help you get there. But I'm telling you, your execution, you think it's going to be easy. You got a 1, 3, 5, 7, whatever. 8. I mean, like, I don't know how you're going to do this. And anyway, he's hell bent on doing it. I'll give him every leg up he could possibly have. Make sure he avoids every pitfall he can. But at the end of the day, I can't change the fact that his daughter's recital and he may have to miss that. So those of you guys that are starting businesses and you already have a business, that's your family. Your wife or partner, whoever that is, male, female, is your CFO, CEO. You guys are partners and you have this entity, kids, a dog, a mortgage, and you have to take care of that home base first. The fact that you decide to start a business afterwards, unless you've got some other financial benefit, money, wife's a breadwinner, savings, whatever it is, I think it's tough. And I think work-life balance is one of those things where it's a constant tug and pull. It's one step forward, one step back. It's never perfect. It just hopefully always gets better for you. But like work, my issue is not work-life balance, because I think if you have a life and you work, that's great. I think it's work, family, is really what it is, because it's your wife or your husband and your kids, your mom and your family and those people that when you're missing from their life because you're pursuing your passion, your dream, that's where the issue is. It is work, family. But imagine, who's the best person to open a business? Single, no kids, no obligation. That's my favorite fucking entrepreneur. They've got nothing going on.
In some ways. But I would also add, and I'm sure you can attest to this, just to play devil's advocate slightly, because as you're describing this dude, there's a fly in here. It's driving me crazy. Just as you're describing this dude, I'm thinking also, well, he's got like 5 very strong reasons to be successful too, 100%. Right? So when I'm on hour 16 for the day and I've still got 2 hours ahead of me and I got to get this thing done, I think about my daughter, in the future I'm building for her. So I do think.
But if you start a business, shouldn't the desire for that thing to be successful be in and of itself? And let's say wife, and you have a wife, okay, and I really want to do for her. And you have a kid. Well, I really want to do good for that kid. I have a second kid. Like at some point, 5 of them is no longer added fuel to the fire. A liability. It's way more of a liability.
Yeah, I would agree to that. But I think that there is certainly a it sounds bad to even say it this way, but a utility to having a family to motivate you also. Because it's if the only thing that's on the line is me, then I'm motivated as hell.
It allows you to be more dangerous. I mean, you could sacrifice more of your life, but when you've given your life to a family, that's tougher.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's just positives and negatives to both.
There is. And let's talk about some of the positives. I harbored on some of the negatives, but when you have a family, you also have more of a support system. Being a solo entrepreneur is a tough gig. You go home alone, you work alone, and until you get successful and you can hire people, you're generally alone. So having that support system is great. Again, it all comes down to communication, and if your partner's on board, maybe they work in the business with you. Like I think that's a great dynamic. Maybe if mom and dad either both work in the business and it's a family thing, I think that could work out really well with 17 kids.
Does that tend to be successful in the microgym space?
I have a lot of I'm also become a part-time marriage counselor, which I'm not the guy to do.
Dude, if you're a nutrition coach, you also will be.
Exactly.
For those listening.
I do, as long as they can accept separate roles and as long as one is director of programming, head coach, and blah, blah, blah. And the other one stays CFO and logistics. If I can keep them in keep them in separate corners, then they can. It's when they get into their own, they want to work together. That's generally where the fail point.
Got it. I could see that. Krista and I have never actually done a business together. We've always had our own things. I've always had my businesses, but she's had her own thing. And now just recently, because we're about to launch this apparel and all of that stuff, and it's obviously something I want to get her more involved with. So I'm just, for my own selfish reasons, I'm curious about that stuff.
So Jess, my girlfriend, she officially moved into my place maybe about 2 months ago. And we've been dating for 2 years. She is an amazing writer. So she's a copywriter by trade. When COVID happened, one of my big revenue streams was I would travel and go and put on business seminars. Well, COVID happens, and that's a huge chunk of my revenue gone. So I'm thinking of, okay, what am I going to spin up? What's going to be the fill the gap? And I came up with copywriting, social media copywriting for gym owners, microgym owners. And I was like, that's a heavy lift, but I'm not traveling anymore. I guess I could do it. And then I was like, wait a minute, let me just tap her. She's fucking way better than I am. So we work together in that realm. She also, she does some admin stuff for me. So she's involved in the business as a contractor. She gets paid, and there's I built out the garage into a studio for me and an office for her. And we work together down there all the time. And this is the first time I've ever had that. I've never done that. But yeah, here's some advice. If you guys start working together, because I'm down there, my man brain is like, honey, we spent time together all day. She's like, no, fuckface, we were working.
You saw me.
You saw me. She's like, that's not quality time. Yeah. So like, we'll do lunch breaks and stuff like that, and cool. Just in adding that part in. But I think it's very cool. And I would always suggest, like, I never tell Jess, my girlfriend, I'm like, take this role. Like, what of all these things I have going on here with the business do you think you'd actually like to do?
Yeah.
And then if it's something I don't feel like I have a unique IP on, then I go with it. Let's do that. Because when it feels like you're like, oh, you're just having me put the shipping labels on the boxes, like you're having me do bitch work, that's going to burn out real quick.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think over COVID for the last 2 years, I mean, you've seen a lot of it happen, but spouses or significant others being forced to work alongside one another or together or whatever.
Small condensed spaces.
A lot of relationships ended over COVID,
yes,
man.
It did.
Just having to
a lot of babies were made and a lot of people got divorced.
Yeah, it went both ways, man. It's like, Jesus, I don't want to be around this person for 18 hours. So I don't feel that way about my wife, for the record. Just want to hear
Do you like working from home?
I do. I mean, I come here to work most of the time. I am one of those people that likes to get out of the house to work. Like I can work from home. It's fine. I just have a lot of comforts there. And so I like to sort of silo myself away, especially having a space like this.
Yes.
I love to come here and just,
by the way, the soundproofing in here, you did such a good job. This was my biggest headache with the studio at the gym.
Yeah.
I could only shoot there during these obscure fucking hours or in between. I remember even the podcast you did, like we ran over and fucking class was going. I was just noticing, I was like, it's fucking quiet as hell back here.
Yeah. So shout out to Aaron, who owns Office Gym.
You guys did a great job.
Did anything I wanted him to do. So it's been amazing. But yeah, I can work from home, and then generally though, if my wife is working from home as well, I will go somewhere else because I don't want to be in her hair. Correct. That kind of thing.
It is nice coming back and seeing somebody too from being away.
From being away.
Yes.
Exactly. Like if you're going to meet up for lunch is a little bit sweeter if you haven't seen each other all morning.
I agree.
Right? So
I agree.
So that's kind of where we are, but we're about to do all the apparel and everything I've been working on. And I definitely want to bring her in more on that because ideally I'd love to just have her be involved full time in our business endeavors and not work. I mean, she loves her job. That's part of it. But eventually I don't want anybody from her job to listen to this and think, but eventually, she doesn't want to be. Nobody wants to be in their fucking job forever. So anyway, all right, you start the gym. We're working our way through this timeline. And it was, from an outsider looking in, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like you were just, from the moment you opened CrossFit South, I mean, you were just successful.
That was, again, timing, hard work, luck, but let's go to the
luck. No, I'm not trying to discount anything.
Oh, I am.
For sure.
I am. I had the best IP possible. I had the term CrossFit in my URL, which is the most buzzworthy Google searched word for about 10 years of the fitness.
And you were in the heat of it.
I was in the heat of it. Yeah. And I had the word South End, which is the very trendy, popular area. So there was a good IP grab there. Now, granted, I bought that domain from GoDaddy in 2009 when I first moved. I was still working for Globo Gym.
Nice.
Again,
there is that recognizing an opportunity thing.
I bought Uptown CrossFit, CrossFit Uptown, South End CrossFit, and CrossFit South End.
I think you don't give yourself enough credit for being a business mind. Like you're naturally business minded.
And whatever that may be. But yes, I would say sure. There was that. I got very lucky in that location. I mean, and again, luck because I rented a small little shithole location right next to it. But when you joined, I had one of the largest facilities of any CrossFit gym in probably North Carolina at the time, a standalone building right next to the Panther Stadium.
That all blew me away.
With a fucking dedicated parking lot. It was unreal. And I've traveled a ton. I've probably been to hundreds of different CrossFit gyms, and I still stand by that is by far the single best shitty warehouse location, but in a growing city in the best area that I've ever seen.
I like the fact that you can recognize that though, because a lot of people get high on their own supply and they think that they're the shit. And it's like, for me also, when I started my first bar in the heart of South End at the peak of the craft beer craze, we had no competition. Yeah. Like, man, I'm really good at this. It's like, no, asshole. Nobody has anywhere else to go.
Correct.
And then, of course, competition came in. Mm-hmm. We saw our numbers go down. Yep. All of that stuff happens. But I think that that's another great attribute of a business owner, though, is this this self, what is it called?
Awareness?
Self-awareness. Thank you very much.
Gotcha.
English is tough. But realizing what is a result of your all of it's a result of your hard work in some capacities, right? But also you've got to realize what was, man, this was serendipitous that I got this. I mean, because you did have an amazing location.
And knowing the pivot. Like, I always look at you. I mean, like, I was telling, I went out to dinner last night with a girlfriend and her parents, and he was asking what I was doing today. I was like, me and my buddy Dave, and he owned these bars. And the dude got out in like the nick of time. Like, you got out in time.
Oh my God.
But that's not like you decided to get out and 2 weeks later you could get out. You were planning. You and me met in my office that one time, and you've been planning and working on that deal for a while.
It took the better part of a year.
Yeah. Not knowing that everything was coming in, but knowing that the wooden robots of the world and all those other breweries are coming in. They're going to squeeze a franchise like yours. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult.
We knew that we had seen the crest of the wave, and we were on the downward slope. Not saying, I mean, you can open a bar right now and it would be massively successful. I'm not saying that, but like, I had gotten the taste of it that I needed.
You'd squeezed all the good juice out of that orange.
Yeah, out of our particular situation.
Correct.
That location has since closed in South End, but the other two are doing great.
And no one's been able to revive that.
Yeah, it's tough.
Now, apparently there's something in there or going to be in there, but I drive past it almost every day and there's nothing going in there. But same thing with CrossFit South End. I rode that CrossFit wave, and when I knew that was about to turn, that's when, I was buying the building, but that's when I completely shut down CrossFit South End and did Urban Movement and rebranded and got rid of CrossFit completely because I saw this complete different turn. And I think you said it perfectly. It's a self-awareness, and accept that your business is not Fast and the Furious. You don't get to have 97 fucking sequels. You don't get to ride that wave forever without
That's a good way to put it.
Without either great innovation or the fact that, like, I always see it. Every good company has to do two things over time. You will be forced to raise prices. You'll be forced to rebrand at some point because your shit will just get out of date, all right? And things are going to change. Mm-hmm. And I think business owners who kind of hold on to the way it is, like, my first location was next to Speedy Prince. Speedy Prince made you business cards and flyers and all that, and that dude held on to it until he was fucking done. And I remember one day being like, bro, how are you going to beat Vista Prince? How is that? How are you ever going to fucking do that?
Right.
And the answer is you're not. So you either innovate and create a great e-com digital fucking platform, or you die.
Dude, Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Holy shit, right? But yeah, that's a great point. And you just mentioned kind of the next place I wanted to take it. So how long did you have CrossFit South End as it was when I joined?
2011, and then I rebranded it as Urban Movement in 2017, April 2017.
So 6 years you operated a classic CrossFit box, as we would call it, right? What was that experience like working? Because I have my own feelings and reservations about being a franchise. Sure. I was giving someone advice about it yesterday. I would never do it again. I remember
when I came in and I was like, bro, you got to change the color of the paintings wall. You're like, I fucking can't.
I know. When you left, I go to my business partner. I'm like, he's fucking right? He's like, yeah, I know he's right. Like, here we are.
Yep.
So not to say that all franchises are bad. And I have friends who have started franchises. I know you're licensing and like all of that is great, especially if you're someone who doesn't have maybe the time or the necessary skills, soup to nuts, to start an original concept. It's fine. But for me, I very quickly realized that I wanted more autonomy and I didn't have it, and I was hamstringed, right? I couldn't pivot like I needed to. You just said there's two things you're going to have to do: raise prices and pivot and rebrand. I couldn't rebrand.
Yeah.
They took that away from me, right?
Yeah.
That was a big part of the reason I sold too. So what was it like having to operate as a CrossFit affiliate? Did you feel as though that ever limited you, or do you think they did a good enough job for what it was?
So let's just for everyone maybe not familiar with the vernacular. So there's franchising and there's affiliation, or what we call licensing. So CrossFit affiliates, those gyms, they're just licensing the name CrossFit. And what that only allows you to do, most people don't know this, it allows you to put the word CrossFit and then whatever nomenclature you're going to run with afterwards that's available. So it'd be like CrossFit Charlotte or CrossFit Dave Hurt or whatever it may be. That's it. You're allowed to say that you offer CrossFit classes, And then that's it. It's the utilization of the mark and the term. And that is it. There's no business support. There are no reports. You literally could open up a CrossFit gym and be like, we're going to hula hoop in roller skates and jerk each other off. And it's $200 a month. And you would be allowed to do that. Like there's
just pictured.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we could find it on OnlyFans, I'm sure.
I guarantee you, bro.
But they have zero interest in telling you what to do. Their business model as a licensee was cream will rise to the top. Calvin Klein's a license. If anyone's wearing Calvin Klein underwear right now, they didn't make that. They licensed the brand name out. They built up a brand that was so popular, then that's their business model. Why do they want to have to source shit from Taiwan and China and deal with shipping and embargoes and shit? They're just going to license the shit out.
You know who else does that?
Yeah.
You know all those, oh shit. You know all those buildings you see?
Yeah.
He just licensed
his name. Puts Trump on them.
Yeah. By the way, I also have a Biden for the people who are going to talk shit to me about being, I'm an equal opportunity offender. But yeah,
so that's like Walt Disney. Anything you see, if McDonald's has toys that put the kids' meals that have Disney characters on, they license that to companies.
Right.
So that's licensing. Right. And then franchising is where there is a parent company who has to create an actual POC, proof of concept. Yeah. You have to get franchise disclosure docs. You have to create this whole thing. And then you could sell this turnkey business to individuals who are now, there's a franchisor who creates it and franchisees who then open up locations and territories.
And they provide you continued support.
Yeah. So I had no restrictions.
Supposed to.
Yeah. So no restrictions for me as a licensee.
Okay. And so they don't even require
money.
You got to be level 1 certified.
They do work. Okay. So they require you to take your level 1, which is a weekend long cert.
I did it.
Yeah. Anyone can do it. And you have to pay $3,000 a year.
I still have a vivid memory of getting my level 1. I only have one memory of it. I can't remember anything else, but I can vividly picture Christmas Abbott telling me I wasn't shit. That's the only thing I remember. And I don't know why that stuck to me.
It's because you didn't have tats back then like she did.
That's true.
That's probably
true. I mean, she's just a badass in general. But it's so funny. All the things I learned, that sticks out. It was because we were doing the workout at the end. And I think it was because I felt as though I was doing well. And then she just comes up and she just talks straight up shit to me.
Yeah.
And I was crushed.
There's a lot of that brand.
So thanks, Christmas.
That CrossFit brand for so long was so fucking rugged and tough. But that was what was magnetic about the brand. It was polarizing.
Yeah.
You sent me, we were talking about we were texting about Dave Castro, one of the key figureheads over there getting fired. Dave came in the CrossFit South End back in 2013, walks into the gym, and I'm in the back office. I'm not coaching back. I'm just doing office work. And I think it was HB or Isaac. They're like, you got to come up. There's someone out front of you to see it. I'm like, I'm busy. Fucking deal with it. UPS guy, I'm good. No, you got to come out. I'm like, fuck, maybe it's the cops. The car got broken into.
They didn't know who Castro was?
No, they did. They just didn't. They wanted me to be surprised. And so I walked out and I sure as fuck was. I was like, holy shit, this is Dave Castro. We walk around the gym for 15 minutes. We talk. He goes, how come you've never hosted any certs here? Back if anyone knows, CrossFit would host probably about 15 to 20 certs around the country. And a cert is a weekend long thing. And if you gave CrossFit your space for the weekend, they'd pay you $2,000. Now, you generally only had a couple classes on Saturday. So making $2,000 it was well worth it.
Yeah.
And he's like, send me an email. Here's my email. Here's my number. I will have certs here within the month. And the dude didn't lie. I shot him an email the next day and he had a fucking cert there. And we ran certs for them every 4 to 6 weeks. And it was awesome. But it was again, he's that guy who, if anyone follows him on the internet, he's a polarizing dude. But that brand did so well with polarizing.
Yeah.
I think that's why I liked it at first.
That's what really rubbed me the wrong way about how everyone responded to Glassman.
The Floyd 19 tweet.
Yeah. I'm like, have you not paid attention to this dude and this brand for the past decade?
Yeah.
This is what it is, man.
He had their mascot was a clown with rhabdo puking with blood being poured out of him after a workout. It just, but again, it's a different world. He could have said something equivalent to the Floyd 19 in the CrossFit Journal back in 2004.
Nobody would have cared.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it also because it arose, Castro was a former Navy SEAL. I never could believe that about him. Just, don't judge people on how they look.
Sure.
But it kind of arose out of these really tough, salt of the earth dudes. And I think that resonated a lot with young professionals, especially people who weren't getting their ass kicked really anywhere else, physically, just because you do crave that as a human a lot. Yeah. But it does seem as though societally we've shifted too. And now it seems to me less and less people seek out discomfort.
Well, I've got a different take on it. I think as humans, we always seek out, like, you ever eat so much you got a food baby, a food coma?
Yeah.
You ever drink so much you're just fucked up? You ever get so high you can't stand up?
You know the answer to these questions about me.
Yeah, but I mean, and then nobody was working out so hard that you fucking thought you were going to die. Like, it just seemed like a natural evolution.
Yeah,
I feel like humans, we naturally like to go to if you go to get Excedrin, there's Excedrin and maximum strength Excedrin. You get the maximum strength.
I don't even know how they sell regular.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's that's my thesis, like, on humans, is that we're always looking for the extreme fucking whatever version of them. And at the time, there was nothing. You went to the gym, you did your weights, you did resistance training, and then you did some conditioning. It was a typical bodybuilding style. So when CrossFit Show goes, well, instead of separating the two, how about you do the 25 bench press, then run a mile, and then do 25 power cleans, and then run a mile, and then pull ups and blah, 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 whatever. And holy shit, you're like, this is way fucking harder. I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Check that endorphin box.
Yeah. So why has it largely changed now, or has it not changed now? Because it seems to me as though, I mean, CrossFit, it's obviously still here. It's still very popular amongst a lot of circles, but and maybe it's just because of who I'm exposed to culturally and in my day-to-day life, I don't feel like it's what it was.
Sure.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I definitely think I'm uniquely qualified to speak this because I dropped CrossFit. I walked away from that brand and created my own, right? Which I got a lot of shit for. I mean, all this stuff, but CrossFit's the largest fitness franchise in the history of the world. No one else, Curves, Planet Fitness, you could add all Orange Theories, add them all combined. There are not as many of them as there are CrossFit gyms. Now, granted, there's a much lower barrier to entry when it's $3,000 in a weekend cert and any jackass can open up his garage and do whatever.
And also it just requires barbells.
Correct, yeah. It's a very low startup, but it's still impressive from a movement perspective that it's that big.
Yeah.
I think CrossFit has sophisticated their image. They are just casting a slightly wider net. You looked at the old website. The old website was like a WordPress
I loved it.
Web 2.0 basic, right? Yeah. Now it's this nice refined thing. And also your thing is, if you're going to accept money from big partners, Monster Energy, Arasati, whatever these companies are, you also have to, you got to carry a $1 billion company image. Previously, it did not have a $1 billion company image. I think it does now, but that's the thing is, I got clients who have CrossFit gyms, crazy hardcore competitive. I mean, like, it is CrossFit back in 2008. It is workout till you fucking die. And they have other ones that are really smart. They do really good, emphasis on tempo or periodization, and they're, all about certain elements of it. They don't look anything like that gym. So that's the thing is CrossFit is very much alive and well. It's flavors. It's like pizza. I tell you, it's like pizza. You might like thin crust. You might like thick crust. You like my oven fired. You might like pepperonis, anchovies, pineapple, whatever. It's all pizza. It's just different styles. That's what CrossFit is. CrossFit is just constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. That is the operational definition, which is now everything in the boutique industry.
True.
Everything is constantly varied. Yeah. The workouts change. Functional movements, however you define that, at some level of intensity. So that now covers everything. And so, like, yeah, CrossFit paved the way. Nobody would be doing Olympic weightlifting and muscle ups if it wasn't for CrossFit.
Well, I always said, man, and being in like dipping my toe in different fitness communities, there was always the detractors who would talk smack about CrossFit. And I'm like, look, you can say what you want about it. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't be performing highly technical Olympic lifts at a really fast pace. Yeah. And once you're fatigued and your form breaks down for time. You can say that. But I will say, there is nothing that put more barbells and got more asses off couches in this country and around the world than CrossFit.
100%.
Dude. Yeah. So you think it's more like this, we had this main thing. Then people's tastes became more sophisticated. They started to figure out what they liked, and it sort of branched off into these other.
I think CrossFit was led by a bunch of idiots, not Greg Glassman, those guys. I mean the affiliates. The first couple thousand is just people who didn't know any better, like myself. We were just kind of opening these gyms, and maybe we had some business acumen or not, but we were kind of figuring it out. And all it takes is smart money. Smart money, like Orange Theory, to look and be like, look what these at that time, maybe 8,000 fucking CrossFits are doing. There's fucking 200 some people in each one of these. They're killing it. And they don't fucking include it's a 10,000 square foot warehouse. If they could be in a 2,000 square foot retail spot, they'd get way more foot traffic. If they refined, if they did Bluetooth heart rate technology, it just took smart money to look at group fitness there. And group fitness wasn't new. CrossFit didn't invent that. but it was definitely revived. Curves is like the original, the behemoth of group fitness. You have Zumba and Jazzercise and things like that, but Curves is the one that really took off from a franchise perspective. But I think Smart Money, like Orange Theory, and then obviously like Barry's Boot Camp and F45, just saw what CrossFit did. We're just going to do it smarter. We're going to do it leaner. We're going to do it as if there was $1 million starting this warehouse, not some guy like Stu Brauer opening up in a small building and paying $1,800 a month and having to finance $6,000 of equipment.
Right.
You know?
And then I think that, well, actually before that, why did you ultimately walk away from CrossFit? And we've talked about it, and I've seen your content, but just for those listening now.
Sure. So again, I saw you could be as bake as start searching Google Trends and put in the word CrossFit. You could see over the years the number, and let's just take it from an analytical perspective. But it was also once I started doing consulting in 2014, 15. Now I'm every day because I own the gym still, but I do not work in it. I'm doing consulting full time, and I'm hearing all the same fucking problems. And the common denominator is everyone is still running this like CrossFit model where the sport is synonymous with this group thing that people came in for. You can go you can go fight in the UFC, but when you're at the gym training, you're not doing UFC. You're doing MMA.
Yeah.
You're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. CrossFit has a bipolar brand. You'd be like, I want to lose 20 pounds. My sister in Ohio said CrossFit's great for that. So I'm going to go join a CrossFit gym to lose 20 pounds. And then somehow you get sucked into this competition thing where you're now signing up for the CrossFit Open and going to weekend competitions. You haven't lost 20 pounds. You now can do some things that have the word kipping in front of it, and you know how to do some more things with barbells. You're hurt in 8 months. It just, that entire thing, I was like, this whole thing is built. It's kind of like the movie, what's the movie that was Steve Carell and everyone in it where it goes over the crash of '08? The Big Short.
The Big Short, yes.
Great
like movie.
Yeah, phenomenal. I was like, oh boy, this whole thing is fucking shaky. Mm-hmm. Like, I step back, I'm like, oh my God, why am I having that woman do a reverse grip deadlift touch and go? Why am I not forcing her to go double overhand grip and pause at the bottom and actually train her smarter on that? Oh, because I've got it in my head that going fast is the best thing possible. And that for CrossFit in the sport, that is. Why everyone who makes fun of CrossFit makes fun of that, the kipping butterfly pull-up, right?
Of course.
The only reason that exists with the chest touching the bar is for the ease of judging in the CrossFit Games. It came out in 2008. They created this chest to bar pull-up where the chest had to touch the bar because it was easier to judge than seeing a chin go over the bar. Mm-hmm. And the chin going over the bar, you could just throw your head back.
Oh yeah, you just did this circle motion.
Correct,
with your
but
chin.
A chest touching the bar, your chin is clearly over it. And all these variations came in, but you saw that, and then like that just went down to the general physical population of people who just went to CrossFit gyms to get fit. Like, no, like if you actually mathematically want to do faster pull-ups, you do them strict. A to B, right? You don't do that because you can only do so many of those. Right. So now this kipping aspect comes in, but it's actually a longer distance traveled from a mathematics physics perspective. And so I've done this. There's videos of guys doing 20 unbroken chest to bar kipping pull-ups, and next to them is that same guy doing 15 unbroken strict pull-ups, and the 15 pull-ups get done in a fraction of the time of that because it's shorter distance, but you're obviously limited on a strict movement like that.
Right.
So I don't know. I saw this where sport blended into what I want to do fitness-wise, and I just had a reawakening as to what I should be doing with people. And so we rewrote the programming model and the fitness that we want to deliver, and it wasn't CrossFit anymore. The popular people, it was still constantly varied functional movements at high intensity.
Yeah.
But if I had CrossFit in front of it, I would be looped in with the rest of those fucking, with those gyms. So I built Urban Movement, created that brand. We ran with what we call tempo training, and that was that.
But once again, it comes back to this level of awareness that you've just always had, I think. And I'm going to keep pounding.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I think the consulting really put me in a position where I was like, oh, fuck. Let me see all these guys. I don't think I might have had that had I just been Stu, the gym owner. I really think that helped me see, what was really happening at scale when Wyoming and California and Chicago and all. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are all doing the same kind of fitness, having the same kind of problems. And it all comes back to we're getting everybody way too fucking high. Like we are ODing these kids.
Yeah.
That we don't need to. Like CrossFit's so potent. Just take one hit, man. That's all you fucking need. And it can be a great workout program. So I go now to a CrossFit gym, mainly because they have a great open gym model and I can go do my own thing. But if, my schedule gets fucked, I go take a class.
Yeah.
And bro, you would love just to watch. So I go into a class and I do all my tempo shit. So the other day the workout had 20 pull-ups. Every kid's in there just goat fucking that bar as fast as they can. And I'm just doing these strict pull-ups, 2-second pause over, doing 4 sets of 5, and then going on with no sense of urgency. Like as if I don't even know there's a clock going. And these people are like, what? Why aren't you going faster? And just like the joy in my soul of getting to describe to them, like at a certain point, man, you'll get to a point, I promise, you just will not care about how fast you go in that. Like I remember when I wanted to work out like a Ferrari, I'm like a Cadillac now. I want fucking just a nice, smooth ride. I want to feel good. I want to look good. And that's all I care about. I care about how I look naked. I do not care about some score on a fucking CrossFit whiteboard.
Was it difficult? Major changes in life are difficult, right? It's like, so I think it's one thing to have that awareness to be like, wow, this is what's happening around us. But then for you to actually say, okay, we're changing everything.
You would probably know better. I mean, well, I know, but we had a bloodbath of a cancellation. I did slow drips for a while.
Okay. So I was going to ask if there was an impetus in terms of like, all right, this is happening to us now.
So I knew this is a coffee drip, not a Band-Aid rip. Right? If you're going to make changes, like because I rebrand gyms all the time who are going to something maybe similar to what I did with Urban Movement and going away from CrossFit. It has got to be a slow drip of content. You have to start educating your people. So this is right maybe after you had stopped coming to the gym. I was done. This is like 2016 maybe. I'm done with people dropping barbells. I'm just fucking over it. Audibly, I'm tired of listening to it. And the second thing, if anyone's ever gone to a CrossFit gym, let's say you have a 95-pound barbell, something light, something you can do a bunch of reps with. They would do like these push presses 20 times, and on the 21st rep, drop it from overhead.
Yeah, drop it from overhead. That drove me crazy.
You fucking bitch. You picked it up off the ground. You brought it to your shoulder and you pressed it overhead. But on the last rep, you couldn't bring it back to your shoulder and set it down. And let's take out the equipment, which is a huge issue. Like
you're destroying 25-pound bumpers.
Destroying bumpers for crazy. Yeah. But it was a laziness thing I started seeing. Touch and go deadlifts became another one for me. And I was someone I always prided myself. I had this great flip grip, touch and go deadlift. I just started like, wait. How much of that is you? Your fucking lower back fucking hinging strength and your hamstring and your glutes, and how much of that is fucking rubber on rubber, fucking, Newton's laws.
A lot of it was bounce from those bumpers on rubber mats.
100%. So I started seeing that. And so I told everyone at the gym, like, cool guys, I put out some articles and I copy and pasted some shit and shared articles from T Nation on grip strength. We're doing an eccentric lowering and grip strength cycle for 8 weeks. No more dropping a barbell from overhead. You pick it up from the floor, it has to be put back down. No more flip grip. You have to go double overhead. Oh, my deadlift isn't heavy as much anymore. I'm like, yeah.
Because your grip's weak.
Your grip's weak. So let's fix that, okay? Yeah. If you want to go train heavy deads that go beyond your grip strength, do them before and after class and use straps if needed. Okay, I get that. I understand needing to overload the bigger body parts and the grip can't keep up until you get that up there. And
there's some biomechanical detriment to having a mixed grip.
100%. Yeah, internally rotating one shoulder and externally rotating the other. And nobody equally fucking distributes that grip ever.
No, ever.
So it was I for 8 weeks or whatever, I didn't let anyone do it. And then I just never changed it. So I'm like slowly tricking, kind of like your kid, like when you want to get rid of your kid's pacifier or something like that, you have to slowly, like, I don't know where it is, honey. I can't find it.
Yeah.
So I just slowly did shit like that. Big things, I got rid of the pull-up rig. That's like an iconic piece of equipment.
As you're doing this, were people canceling?
No one yet, because it was like I framed, you always want to, when you're making change, frame things as temporary. Like even gyms, I always recommend if you're doing a schedule change, it's a temporary seasonal change.
We're going to try this out.
Yeah. And just run it for a while. And guess what? You just don't talk about it again. And the loud minority bring it up, but it's not enough to cause any issues. So yeah, that was fine. No real issues there. It was when I started getting rid of pieces of equipment. I started looking at, for group fitness as more of a financial model, doing back squats in which people use squat racks is not good business if you own a gym. Barbells, 7-foot ones, are great for fitness. They're bad for business. And the reason why a really good barbell is $300. If I want 25 people, which is what I need to be to make a lot of money in a group fitness class, if I want them to all have squat racks, I need a big fucking facility, which means my rent's really high. So like little things like that, like I'm like, well, CrossFit's 90% anterior based squatting anyway, front squats, cleans, wall balls, thrusters. For the posterior, we'll do a lot of heavy deadlifts. We'll do, Russian kettlebell swings. I can come up with a lot of posterior shit. I don't need the back squat for that. I lift the back squat, but I'm running a business here, kids, and I'm trying to maximize my revenue per square foot. No more. So I got rid of the fucking rig, which meant no more back squats. We would still back squat, but with a load that you could clean, get over your head, safely lower to your back, and we did high volume reps with tempo.
And not a 7-foot barbell either, right?
Yeah, we went down to the 5-foot barbell.
Yeah.
With with good bumper plates, you could get 300 some pounds on there.
Enough.
For the average person, it was fucking beautiful. And I had guys who were like, whoa, I can only fit 315 on this bar. I'm like, yeah, bro, but you still can't double overhand grip that on a deadlift for 12 reps at tempo. And again, adding tempo was the big one.
That's huge.
That's what took the need for heavy weight down for everyone. It just ego checked people.
Tempo is huge in your world with urban movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a moment at which you decided that tempo was going to be the defining variable for your brand?
Yep. It was, everyone goes left. I like to go right.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. I looked at every CrossFit gym and every workout and everything I ever saw, and it was fast, 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 fast. What's the opposite? Fast, slow. Also, I would travel to my client sites, their gyms, and I would help critique sales processes. So tours. So a tour would come in and they're like, yeah, so this is the gym and a class is happening. And if anyone's ever seen a CrossFit class, it's like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. Like one person's swinging a kettlebell, this person's jumping on a box, that guy just dropped the barbell.
Especially if you don't know what you're looking at.
It looks like absolute chaos. It's like fucking Tortuga from fucking, Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just absolutely fucking insane.
Scene.
Yeah, the bar scene. It's absolutely insane. So when we switched to tempo, I mean, imagine now this tour scenario. You get met at the front desk. You get brought into the back of, and a class is going on, and everyone is squatting down in 3 seconds, holding for 3 seconds, and up in 3 seconds, like fucking little soldiers. Mm-hmm. And someone can look at that and it's slower. And I was like, 2 benefits. A coach has more time to go around and correct form. That's a huge one versus a CrossFit class. And you'd go to coach and you'd go over someone and they already finished their last rep. You're like, well, fuck, I guess I gotta wait for him on the next pass because he's going so fucking fast. And if you interrupted someone in a CrossFit class, like, hey, let's make some critique forms. Like, whoa, you're fucking up my time.
Mess up my time.
So I got rid of all that. So my sales went up because tours were not scared anymore. They were not intimidated. Coaching was way better. Clients were having way better communication with the clients. And then I got to use less weight. Everyone was using less weight because our tempos were just fucking they were tough. They were hard.
Very interesting. And if you look across sort of the landscape of weight training disciplines, there are, and especially I think a lot of it is not necessarily like in the U.S. Like if you look at other countries and they're like Russia, for example, with their weightlifting programs, and China too, like tempo is huge in the programming. And it's something that for whatever reason in America, I guess because we have this like live large, die fast mentality.
So. I think it's also the hardest, like, because tempo, when you're training it in the bottoms of the tops of the movements, those are the hardest ones. Like I have not done a pull-up in 5 years in which I do not hold my chin or chest to the bar for at least 2 seconds.
Wow.
I've not done a burpee in 5 years in which I do not do a strict push-up.
I was going to ask how, because I admittedly I have never done an urban movement tempo class. So you still do burpees, but how do you modify the movement?
Yeah, so we generally pitch it to it's you're doing a push-up. Like I don't want the burpee, doing a push-up, jumping, clapping, and going back down. 8 of those in and of themselves is cardiovascular. But if you're down there, I don't like this idea of you just doing this like Scotty too hotty worm off the fucking floor. I hated that. I hated like your ass going up in the air like this rounded deadlift, even though I wanted this nice strict movement. And also I think it's absolutely pathetic for you to say that you've trained at my gym for 2 years and your push-ups look like dog shit. Like it's the most basic fucking thing possible. Like it's the shortest distance, even with people with long arms. Like this is not that long for you to be able to move your own body. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous to not be able to do that well. But there are, like, we have the ergs, the skis, the rowers, the bikes. That's where you go ham, right?
I was about to ask how you get
climbers.
That high intensity.
Yeah. We still most of the resistance is going to be there. There are things you can't put tempo to. Hang power cleans. Can't put tempo to those. Kettlebell swings. Can't put tempo to those. Yeah, exactly. So there's plenty of movements that keep the heart rate up. And that's kind of how the workouts look. There's like, think of a red light, green light. Okay. Right? Like red lights are your slow tempo. It's going to drop that heart rate. Green lights, you're fucking going. And we just kind of mix and match that.
Do you still have like the snatch? And those
dumbbell. So here's my thing with the snatch. If you're doing a barbell snatch, you're essentially just testing hip extension and then shoulder in this rotator cuff piece, which is just super weak. Like nobody has ever grabbed anything in their life out here. No. You've never grabbed a box or a kid or anything.
I never understood why we called a snatch a functional movement, to be honest.
It was like, just,
what's this function?
Well, it's because the clean was, and its sister is the snatch and Olympic weightlifting. And again, yes, if you can do it well, but the snatch and the overhead squat is more a test of mobility and stability than it is actual fitness. I was like, I need to work on my overhead squat. I'm like, it's the weakest squat you have in your entire arsenal. Out of all your squats, your overhead squat will be the lightest, just like your press. Your strict press is the weakest press out of all your pressing movements. And anyway, so dumbbell, and I like the dumbbell variation, especially again, as long as you don't treat it like a kettlebell and bring it out here, I like it. I mean, it's essentially just like this powerful, hinging base bicep curl and then an overhead movement. I like double arm dumbbell snatches are like one of my favorite things to do. The dumbbells, I like unilateral training in general. I like seeing your stability with dumbbells, the inaccuracy or the inefficiencies versus a barbell hides left to right in instability or strength issues. Yeah, they get hidden with a barbell. So, but no, we prior to closing it, we did dumbbell snatches, but no like proper. And that's the thing with 5-foot barbell, you can't do those with a 5-foot barbell either. Most people don't have the range of motion.
Unless you're a midget.
Yes.
If you had to pick one thing that you like truly miss about CrossFit, what do you miss about it?
I think it's the reason I joined a CrossFit gym. Mainly, again, it's a beautiful facility. It's a minute from my house, and I go there mainly for their open gym. So I'm solo dolo, but I do take classes because I do. So the other day it was a workout was muscle ups, 20 muscle ups for time. And every kid is fucking his way through it. And I'm doing them all strict. And they partnered you up with someone. And I actually got the coach, and I asked the coach first because he knows who I am. He knows what I've done. And I said, hey, I don't want to step on your dick. Like this guy with me, he's asking some questions. Am I allowed to give him some pointers? Or he's like, yeah, Stu, go for it. I coached this dude through some strict muscle. Dude, I missed fucking that so much because in Urban Movement, we didn't have any complicated movements like that.
Right.
I was a straight to class model. You didn't have to have personal like if you own a CrossFit gym and you're not doing one-on-one training with people before they go in the group class, you may be fucking up. Or you need some kind of like fundamentals class before they graduate to the regular, some version of that. Urban Movement, we were a straight to class model. It was none of our movements were complicated that I could grab 40-pound overweight Sally off the floor or the street and just get her going immediately with us. But CrossFit, I miss like that. I miss the intricacies of the coaching. Like I truly am. I'm a coach at heart. That's what I started off doing. I still see myself as a coach.
Yeah, coaching people through complex mechanical movements.
Making someone take a feeling like, how do I, with the muscle, how do you do, like, and breaking it down into ways and and giving examples, visual, verbal, and tactile cues that just make that light fucking pop. And that's what I got the other night. And I was just like, oh, fuck, I missed that. That's dope. Yeah.
I remember that about you when you coached us, like when you were actually coaching classes, like when I was a member, just the like, you can tell when somebody really gives a shit about what they're talking about. And you could see that in you when you would coach people and fix their movement and stuff like that. And I think that, at least having experienced, I mainly trained at your gym. And before that, I was at one other CrossFit gym. But then for a time, I did experience a couple different ones. And that is so obvious in a coach. Like if they truly care about it, and if like you said, like the fire was burning again. So I always saw that in you. And so I was curious about that for like this season of your life. Cause now I'm
just a landlord. I don't own a gym anymore.
Semi-retired.
So I closed down the gym and I leased out the building to a new tenant. And so it's just kind of like landlord game, consulting, and then this real estate thing. So I spend a lot more time. I work out now more, I have more time for fitness now, and I actually do more fitness now than I've probably done in 7 years.
I believe that.
I mean, it's the free time, yes, but it's I get to walk into a gym, and I did in the beginning, but I don't like, fuck, that's dirty. I gotta go clean that. Right? Like that was the hardest thing at my gym. I couldn't walk in there and just have me time. It never worked out that way. I could be in there at 3 a.m. in the morning. I remember like I'd go in to shoot content. I got there at 3. I'm like, I'm gonna work out from 3 to 4, shoot from 4 to 5. Get there at 3. I shit you not. We had cops out front because the 2 homeless dudes were fucking, I don't know, doing some shit. And I'm like, they're just never ending.
Yeah.
And I just love this. I fucking hop on my bike. I go to the gym. I fucking can hang out there for 90 minutes if I want. And it just, it's a nice time to be. I like being back in fitness as a practitioner.
It's so funny because I have the exact same experience now going to the bar location I used to own in Rock Hill and just sitting there as a customer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is nice. I never got to do this when I owned the place.
Have you gone back to that thing often?
Yeah. I'll go, and just for that,
sure,
for the sake of doing that, because I in the amount of time, just like you said, you didn't get to train as much as you wanted to, being the gym owner. When I owned bars, I didn't get to like sit down and enjoy a beer.
Yeah.
If you want to open a business because you
love that thing,
don't.
Yep.
Keep that as something special.
Yeah.
And do it for leisure, but don't make it your business. And I think that gets conflated often when we say like pursue your passions again, because you gave the example of whiskey. It's like if you truly do, I mean, really evaluate, like you enjoy drinking whiskey.
Correct.
You don't enjoy the fermentation process and hiring employees and all of that stuff. So it was the exact same thing with me in the bar, man. It's just like I didn't enjoy a bar while I owned bars.
It's the same analogy, which is fucked up considering you and me, we're both there in our relationships. But it's like you really love someone, don't move in with them. You really like somebody, don't make them your best friend. You really like your best friend, don't make him your roommate. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like there's
or your best friend, don't make him your business partner.
Yeah, those situations can all get close. There's something when you love it so much, when you bring it into a scenario where you're now dependent on it in some way, shape, or form, where there's now higher expectations. Like I play guitar. Playing guitar, I love doing it. I don't do it as often as I'd like, but it's one of those things where like if I decided I wanted to start making videos on using my guitar in content, I would now lose my love for doing that because now it's not just my guitar is now just I get a little high and my kid likes to hear me play and it's fucking cool. Like that's it, man. Like that's all but if I was going to make it something that I had expectations for, other people had expectations for, all the fun's fucking gone. Yeah. Now it's a liability. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so just all things for you guys to consider, because I know that I'll often talk about in my own journey, like the perils of just going after a dollar and finding that balance between doing something I love that can be financially rewarding. But there also are those things where it's just like if you're someone who really, really loves working out, like that's your thing. Like maybe don't own a gym.
Sure. Now let's say you go from really love working out. That was me. To I wanted to know how, why, when. I want to know everything behind the science. And then from there, once you have some knowledge, you always want to start, like I was telling, my aunt or like these kids in college and high school, I was correcting their form. I'm like, oh, I like this. Mm-hmm. I also had an ego trip on it. I like being in control. Like there's some, like when you coach a group class, you're like an airline attendant. You are a public speaker for a moment in time.
Yep.
And you have all these professionals who make good money because they can afford your $200 a month gym membership. And I say, okay, guys, class, come onto the whiteboard, whatever. And they all shut the fuck up and I'm running the scene. And I liked public speaking. I liked being on display and doing this. And I like controlling the situation. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of that. I think if you find enough of those things, you can go down and make your passion, your business and pursue that. But you need to really check in and be like, do you just like the experience of the service or product, or do you really like all the ins and outs and are willing to deal with the headaches of actually delivering and creating the service or product?
Yeah. What drove you to, because again, you strike me as this guy, for as long as I've known you, you've always been cognizant of the macro. You've always known where you fit in the context of the greater landscape of your industry. So that's why you've made these changes as time progressed. The consulting thing and the content creation thing and all of that. Like there's a lot of guys who are awesome gym owners, great coaches, but they don't do that.
Sure.
Like what for you, was it that desire to teach, to be the guy who's guiding people?
I think so. I think it kind of goes back to when we were talking about that apartment complex. Like I knew, like even if I had a half-cooked idea, if I got 5 minutes with somebody, I could fucking get a next meeting. Like I always felt really confident in my ability to do that. And again, at the time, I had a really successful gym, and the story, and a lot of people don't realize there was a magazine. It's still in publication called Box Pro magazine. So think of it as an entrepreneur magazine, but for CrossFit gym owners. Mm-hmm. And I got that magazine, and right when I started consulting, I realized I'm a nobody. Nobody knows who I am. So I contacted them and said, here's 6 articles I've written. You could have them for free. And if you want, I'll write you one every month. And if you go to Box Pro, Stu Brauer, and Google, you'll find my entire directory of every article I ever wrote for them. So I'm writing for them for free. They put out an article. We're inviting the top 50 gym owners in the country to Atlanta in 2014 to meet and for a 3-day business seminar. Kelly Starrett's wife it's going to be a huge thing. I'm not on that list. Now, I know I'm not on that list. I mean, we're talking CJ Martin from Invictus, Ben Bergeron's on the list. Right. I mean, the top names. Starrett's, I mean, everybody. And I'm not on the list. So I sent an email. I should be on the list. Like this, not arrogantly written, but it's fucking like I should be on this fucking list.
Now, but let me ask you really quick. Yeah. Did you truly feel as though you should be on the list?
I did. Because the one thing I was like, it's a license. There's no comparing notes. As much as CrossFit does the leaderboarding and the scorekeeping, you have no idea what business is doing over another. I'm like,
so it wasn't based on sales. Yeah, it was based on clout in the industry.
It was clout and who you were. And I just wasn't a person. I'm like, I'm doing $500,000 a year at 26% margin. I fucking have destroyed this thing. I went from a fucking truck 4 years ago to this monster. And I have this Globo Gym background. I have more sales and business in the fitness industry knowledge. Most of these guys just open CrossFit gyms and they were firemen or whatever the fuck it may be. I truly think I'm the smarter person in the room. Yeah, I should be at this fucking conference. He said, dude, you're not. And, but thanks. And
you had like the opposite of imposter syndrome.
So I was like, and they're like, you're not. Her name was Heather Hartman, and we're still in contact today. She's a great one. She's an editor. You're not, but keep writing the articles. They're dope. You do a great job. So whatever. I took it. Guess what? I get an email like 3 weeks later. Someone backed out. You're in. I'm like, booyah. So I go to this thing and everyone's like, oh, cool. You got invited. I'm like, I actually just invited myself, essentially is what happened. But I went to every table. So the way they did, they broke us into these little groups and they'd give you business problems and stuff. And I was fucking destroyed. I would talk the most. People would write down the shit I said. I would, wasn't respectful. I'd listen to other people's ideas, but I truly felt I had some of the best ideas at the table, no matter which scenario they put me in. And this was for 3 days. They paid for all our food, all our drink. It was all expenses paid. They put us up in the W in downtown Atlanta. It was sick. And I mean, with some of the smartest guys out there. And I walked away from that. I was like, that's it. I'm going to turn on that fucking camera the second I get back. That was like me, proving to myself that I could hang with these guys and I'm actually smarter than them.
Do you think that stems from your background in the traditional Globo Gym scene and your degree, or
I don't
also just this natural inclination?
I think it's the thing. I do. And I've got an entire content piece I did. I have an ego, and I believe ego stands for, in my opinion, energy you give out. And the energy I give out on the topics that I know, people are like, oh, I don't like Stu. He's got too much bravado. He's got too much ego. Like, you're fucking right. I have so much ego in the realm of certain things, but I truly do. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I think it sounds cool. I truly think I probably know more about this than you. Not that you may be wrong. Again, going back to the other previous, you're right, I'm right. But if there was a game show and it was me and 10 other gym consultants and there was some kind of game where they gave problems, I would crush.
Yeah, and you're willing to put your ideas to the test against theirs 100%. And see which performs better empirically.
Yeah, and it's bodies of work and even the consulting stuff now. So I don't know. I just that event really was the thing that gave me the super confidence to go balls deep into just putting myself out there and doing the consulting thing.
Yeah, there are a handful of people that sort of come from that traditional CrossFit world who have been able to pivot and who have really shown their business savvy. And I think of you, and I think of Jason Khalipa. Yeah. He's another one who just is incredibly impressive in that regard. I love his Business of Fitness podcast. Yeah. And I'm not a gym owner, but I love fitness and I love business. And so I listen to every episode with him, and there's just a few of you guys. And so I always wonder, what is that distinction? What is that and maybe it is what you said when we started this thing out. I just had the entrepreneurial itch, right? Yeah. Because I think we have glamorized entrepreneurism to a certain extent, and a lot of it is your Gary V's and all these people, which he's amazing. He absolutely played a huge part in my realization that I needed to personally brand and put out content. But you also make it a sexy thing, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, right? And like you said, there are a lot of people who are employees, and they should be employees, and that's great. And that's their better role. They'd be better at it. They'd be happier, et cetera. And so I always find myself looking at people like you, like Jason, like me to an extent. And I think that no matter whether there was this, because when you started as an entrepreneur, there wasn't this huge, sexy glamorization, right, of entrepreneurism and all. It is truly what drives you. And I think that it comes down to that. Like, I think that inevitably, there's always this certain percentage of the population, these certain types of people that are going to be those kinds of thinkers. And, you can chalk it up to luck in a lot of regards with yourself or whatever, but like time and time again, at each stage in your journey, you saw an opportunity, you recognized it, you also acted on it, which is huge, right? Like whether it's the apartment thing, whether it's the starting an actual CrossFit gym thing in South End, and all the things that you chalk up to luck. I mean, there was some decision making that went into that and some natural inclination, and then realizing you needed to get out of it, and realizing that this variable of tempo was so important, and then realizing that you could license it, and then you could. So I think that that there's just types of people who think that way. Right. But I don't want to like convey the message that if you don't think that way naturally, you can't be.
Sure. There's talent and there's hard work. Like you always heard that conversation as another way, like just because you really want something, you go after your passions and your dreams or whatever, doesn't mean you're going to get it. Right.
Like you can want to be a stand-up comedian with everything you have 100%. And you're not funny.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, I've heard the thesis from like Gary Vee, like if you suck at basketball, but you pick up a basketball every day and shoot, you're going to be considerably better at basketball, but you will not be LeBron James. Yeah. I've heard the Joe Rogan analysis, like, listen, everyone running towards their dream is like the fucking antelope, right? There's always at least one antelope's going to get fucking eaten. Like a lion's going to fucking get you. He recently
said that, right?
I saw it in a quote from a recent episode. I was like, yeah, it's a good way to put it. But yeah, so I mean, I think for people, the most important thing is you give it you're invested in something, you give it a go. But ultimately it just goes to happiness. Like if you're happy at your job, but all of a sudden, because everyone's doing entrepreneurship bullshit, you instantly start thinking like, oh, fuck, I should be too. Like, dude, you love your job. You get paid well. You have good benefits. You just now have something because all your buddies have entrepreneur in their fucking Instagram bio.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. Yeah, and you always struck me as the kind of guy that really wouldn't ever be able to work for someone. I don't think you're an employee.
I'm an HR liability. By all means.
Yeah, and I have worked for people, but it's always felt against my nature.
Sure.
It's just how I am, and I just want to hammer home to people that like if you're not that way, like it's okay, right?
It's so interesting that like now that I'm a free agent, I closed the gym and all that. I've had W-2 opportunities, like being brought on as W. I've worked with me and Khalipa have talked about stuff with him and a couple other companies and stuff like, and that intrigues me. I don't like instantly like write it off like no. I think it's because I scratched that business, run the show kind of itch. And now I do some of this gig work. Like I do content-based work where I'm just a 1099 for certain like member management softwares and shit like that and getting paid to make courses and whatever it may be. And so like I have boss it to the tune of like, they're like, hey, this thing is due. We're paying you this amount. So I've kind of morphed into that a little bit. And there is some fun in that. Like you do get to a point where you get to kind of negotiate your shit. So you're not being, you're not like, hey, fuck you, make that course, make it by tomorrow, that kind of thing. But yeah, going to this, I think in the beginning, no, I knew working for someone else, I always could play well with others. I do play very well with others, even others I do not like. I do play well. But I always always had better ideas, or I just had something I wanted to do different.
Yeah.
I think now where I'm at, I'm more open to the idea of, maybe taking a 20-hour-a-week W-2 role where I'm doing some kind of consulting specifically for one company for X amount of hours and being on some kind of retainer regularly. So I am obligated to them and then they're obligated to me. I'm more open to stuff like that. I've been having those conversations. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because it's an odd thing to switch to.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, especially with my daughter and stuff like that, and things change, like priorities just shift a little bit more,
Right. And I think that it's important to be open to those things, to be open to those shifts, especially with things that change in your life, like family. So these days, just to put a bow on all of it, you've successfully started, run, and now sort of quasi exited, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're licensing the brand.
I'm actually no. So all that's done.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not even going to license it. So I own all the IP. So we had a few deals in place. We're going to tank all those. None of those are going to go anywhere. Now, if somebody comes to me one day and is like really wants to kick it back off, maybe. But for now, I felt it would do a disservice, and there are other companies now that I don't own my own gym, I now have opportunities to do work with some of these other companies.
Okay. And
that was kind of the linchpin on that. So no, I own all the IP. Literally I could start up those licenses. If I got the right guys, like I got $1 million, I got this great building in fucking Austin, Texas. I want to open up an Urban Movement. We could have that conversation because I still own all of it.
Okay.
But no, now it's just landlord, commercial real estate, the gym real estate company that I started, and then the full-time consulting and content creation.
Got it. Are you happy?
Yo, God, it's the happiest I've been.
Yeah.
Happiest I've been. 100%.
When was the most unhappy you were in this whole thing?
Man, and it's so shitty to say. It was probably, so I'm divorced, but it was probably during the stage where I was really coming into my success in WTF, and I just got married, and I just built a home, and I was buying a building. Oh, and I had a daughter. Like when all the fucking things happen, right? Like when it rains, it pours kind of scenario. That's probably when I was the most unhappy, which it seems fucked because you have all these amazing things happen to you. I can juggle chainsaws. I feel like I'm pretty good at juggling chainsaws, but eventually when you juggle chainsaws, no matter how good you are, one slips. Mm-hmm. And it just depends whether you're going to get a nick or whether you're going to fucking arm severed off. And at that stage, the chainsaws were too big and too heavy, and I was going to get an arm severed off. And that stress crushed me. I mean, absolutely crushed me. I was waking up at 3, going to bed at 10. And that was every day for almost 2.5, 3 years. And just to fit it all in. Because I didn't want to sacrifice the family time, but I had to get the content done, and it was a shit show. I would say I was unhappy, and you publicly wouldn't know through content and all that, but I was just, I loved what I was doing. I loved life. I had the stress of like, one of these things is going to come crushing down. I'm going to miss that meeting for the building, and we're not going to get the zoning. I'm not going to get the dinner with my wife, and she's going to fucking flip out. I'm going to not be there for the kid. It was too much stress. And now I do not have any of that.
Yeah. It's, interesting because that's when I was kind of at my most unhappy as well, was when from the outside it looked like I had the world, just everything, all the things.
Yep.
And for me, it was also a result of the fact that on top of that, the industry that I did own a business in and that I was experiencing success in, quote unquote, was not an industry that I wasn't particularly stoked to be in that industry. Right. And so it was just like, it's very interesting that oftentimes we can be in our most like desperate or in the most deepest forms of despair when we do have we look to be at like the peak of our achievements, right? And I think that a lot of people think, this is the reason I asked you this, a lot of people think that if I just achieve this, mm-hmm. then I'll be happy.
Sure.
Or if I just get to that, then I'll be happy. It's like, bro, no, you won't. If you're not happy now, you're not going to be happy then. You need to really figure out what it is that makes you happy. And it might not be making $10 million, because if you make $10 million doing this thing, you're just going to be an unhappy fuck with $10 million, right? And I think that's so important for people to know. And I draw a lot of parallels between us. And again, like I said before, very different journeys, very different industries, a lot of stuff. But like you experience these seasons in life, right? Where piss and vinegar, working your ass off. You get to a certain point, then you realize, that it's really taking a toll on you. And then you decide like later, and a lot of this, same thing with fitness, like with CrossFit and everything, like speed. And then you're like, hold on a second, actually, no, tempo.
Yeah, man, spend some time under tension.
Yeah, slow it down, Cadillac. So like, I feel like we're as much ambition as I have to like grow this podcast and do the other things I'm doing. I do feel like I'm in more of like a Cadillac stage of life.
Yeah.
And it seems like you are too. And so like moving forward, like, I know you've got everything going on you do now. You're still putting out a lot of content. You're doing your podcast stuff. You're consulting. I mean, for you're doing less, but like for the average human, it's still like you're doing a lot of shit.
Sure.
So like what does the next 5 years look like? Because you're still a young dude.
Yeah.
Right? Do you see yourself ever starting from scratch in another industry, some other business?
I think I'm doing, well, I'm kind of doing that with the commercial real estate thing, right? So,
Okay,
I asked myself a business problem, and it took me a long time to figure out the answer, but I think I have it. We'll find out in a couple of years. But how do I make more money from my current clients without them having to pay me more money? How do I get current clients to make me more money, but them not having to pay me? And the answer was, I have hundreds directly, thousands by extension of gym owners. And they're all gym owners, which means they all have a building that they either lease or maybe one day want to buy.
Most of them probably lease, right?
Majority of them.
Yeah.
99%. Well, those leases, they get new buildings, they have to re-sign leases. And my own experience working in the commercial real estate scene, even having my own brokers who sign my lease, who help me get my leases, and seeing the commissions they got. I mean, my broker on this building. So again, it's a 10-year lease, and I've got a really big building. And it's a really good rental rate, but their commission check's $188,000, and he's a great dude. Scheduled a dozen or so walkthroughs, forwarded 30 to 40 emails. I mean,
I'll take that.
And guess what? You know who pays it? Not the client, the landlord.
Right.
So for me to go ahead, I solved that business problem. Like, well, if I go to my gym owners that I work with already and be like, hey, when it's time to re-sign that lease, let me do the brokering for you. I'll make sure you get the best deal possible. And you'll get the benefit of having me be your broker versus some guy your aunt recommended to you from fucking Charter One or whatever. And, he has to pay me, not you. So it's cool. And I mean, what gym owner is going to say no to, like, it costs them nothing. And Stu's going to help me out. We've added a few extra services, operational capacity analysis and 3D renderings and some cool shit like that.
I love it, man.
But now it's just gym owners who now I can just start making commissions on their real estate side. And so now they're going to make me more money without having to pay me more money. So again, that's my hypothesis. And I'll let you know in a few years how that's all panned out.
That's what we call a win-win.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right? But once again, dude, just that. And I hope, if nothing else, people take this from this episode, like seeing an opportunity, looking for an opportunity first, seeing one, and then seizing it. Like those 3 steps are steps that you consistently throughout your life have executed on, whether you had the self-awareness that you were doing that or not. So maybe it's an intrinsic character trait. But I think so many people either don't look for opportunities, they see one and they don't recognize it for the opportunity that it is, or they do both of those things and then they don't seize it, right? So like there's 3 crucial steps that your average human, 99% or whatever, don't execute on. And I think that makes all the difference when you combine that with also persistence and hard work and maybe a little bit of talent and luck, right? But like you've got to always be looking for those things. And, I look at myself and I think I did that with the craft beer thing, but I've also reflected back and seen many things that I didn't see that I should have seen. So for me, I try to be more aware now of those types of things, but I love it, man. I think that's an awesome plan moving forward. And it's been, I know we've been jamming for a while, so we can wrap this thing up, but it's been awesome to see your journey and just kind of watch how it's evolved. And it's been awesome having you as a friend. Like I said in the beginning, dude, I saw a lot of me in you when I first saw you, but you were like me having actually said, no, I'm going to go in on myself and do a thing entrepreneurially. And so I think the realization of that when I first saw you in 2013 has led to me doing a lot of these other things. So for that, I thank you.
And I got to tell you, I was never more excited when you start seeing someone post content and you're like, oh, is this, okay, let's see if this lasts 6 months, whatever it is. Yeah. But when I saw that your thing was for real and you were actually sticking with it, because I could tell you were actually enjoying it. And there's a huge difference. When you make content,
it is huge.
You're easily able to tell the people who are doing it to check the box versus the people who actually enjoy this. And I was so excited because my ecosystem of content creators, it personally, like people that were friends first and then, get into it, was minimal.
I mean,
right?
you're the only person I know who started as a friend and then is a content creator.
Yeah, like that I can literally go get a beer with.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
like,
I have a lot of friends now that I've met
through content creation. Same way.
Exactly.
That ecosystem is so different. But like, yeah. So, our friendship I value it there. I think it's super cool. I've always enjoyed when we're able to get together. And we have so much similarities too, the dad thing and all that other stuff.
It's kind of weird when you think about it.
I know. Yeah. It's very much the parallels. But no, man, I greatly, this is awesome. And I just hope that we continue every year, just tag teaming, going back and forth on each other's shows and doing this, because these conversations are so much fun.
No reason not to, man. Well, to wrap this sucker up, Stu, where can people find you? Where should they seek you out?
Yeah, just put into the Googles, WTF Gym Talk, and you'll find anything and everything you need to find there.
Okay, right on. Stu Brauer, thanks a lot, man. For all of you out there listening, or if you're watching on YouTube, until next time, keep your minds free.
Take care, guys.
Wow.